Tonight on Countdown to Green, we take a look back at the action from Echo Park. The crew previews our first trip to Naval Base Coronado. And we catch up with Michael Cozy Jr. from the ERA Esports team. All of that and more, coming up on Countdown to Green.
Hello everybody and welcome to Naval Base Coronado in San Diego. For the first time, we're getting a look at one of the most unique tracks in NASCAR, sim racing, and eNASCAR, Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series history. This is the Countdown to Green presented by Logitech, and what a night we have in store for you. Happy to be here. I'm Alan Cavana, joined by two of the best, Ryan Vargas and James Pike. It's not often we get to be a part of something so new, guys. Ryan, what do you make of this as a driver, broadcaster, and race fan in general?
Look, I'm going to take the race fan seat here right now. It is 3.4 miles of chaos, and it's going to be a heck of a show here tonight. I know the real-life racing is going to be chaotic, but this track is bumpy. It's tight corners. There's walls everywhere. It is going to be a treacherous night of racing, and I cannot wait to watch it.
James, it's brand new. What questions do you have?
So many. And I think the interesting thing is that at this point in time, the drivers here in the Coke Series know more about this track than the drivers in real life because they probably got more experience with it preparing for this race. So we'll see how it pans out and see which driver conquers Naval Base Coronado.
Looking forward to it. And one of the drivers trying to do just that tonight, Michael Cozy Jr., driving for ERA Esports, which is the proudly owned by a American member of the Navy, Jesse Iwuji. Let's learn more about Michael Cozy and his team.
I've been sim racing since, 2012 now. What year is it? That's 14 years or so? Oh, man. I've never, ever worried about an audience whatsoever. I always started YouTube and streaming to have fun and to interact with people. And that's all I've ever done, and it's, been amazing to kind of find the same type of people who have just, for one reason or another, come to my channel, come to my stream, and I've met so many different people at racetracks and what have you. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I tell you, it's just a wonderful ability to be able to. And again, I've done it for so long now. It's just grown into something I couldn't imagine, and I couldn't have even wanted it, knowing what it is now. Proudest moment is still my 2021 E-Racer Firecracker 400 win. Dale Jr. pushing me on the last lap. I mean, that's probably will never really top that one. The only thing that would come close is hopefully a Coke Series victory this season. I'm always fighting my stomach and my nerves every race day. There's some sort of your standard things you get to do on race day, and the streaming comes with a lot of extra little things, extra little details that come with the races. But since I haven't won, I don't know. I think I need to pick up some sort of something. More than ever, it's so huge to find a teammate out there, to be able to work around traffic. It can be very difficult to pass. At the same rate, it can be very easy to pass, but difficult when you got a lot of enemies. Alta's boys, we find each other in the race. We're sticking with each other, and it can be very difficult considering how short the races are as well. Everything has to go right, and every week is full on as much pressure as possible to get it right. As I've grown and learned, it's very beneficial to take care of your equipment, be patient when you get out there and the competition is very high. It's very easy to overdrive and try to keep up with the best of the best, where a lot of times you kind of have to bring it back a gear, put yourself where you need to be, find your spots out there on the racetrack, and run your own race. It sounds pretty simple, but at the end of the day, it's easily messed up. The Firecracker win is a storybook race for me, but I think it'd be really fun to test out some of the top of the line Cup drivers now. Kyle Larson, defending champion, Chris Rebel, whoever you have at the top of the cup. Tyler Reddick's having a hell of a season. I think it'd be really fun to go against those guys on the sim and see how it stacks.
And here's the live look at Michael Cozy getting ready for tonight's race. What do you make of that? Still looking for that first win, Ryan, but always in it, always trying to do what he can as a veteran.
Oh, well, he's always in it. I mean, and there's no way to really stress it enough. He's always in the mix. He always finds himself towards the front half of the grid, especially at the super speedways, and he's got a bit of a unique surroundings around him there. I believe he's actually at Naval Base Coronado right now competing, so that is definitely got to be a lot of pressure. You see some folks in the background, though. I know whenever people like to watch me do any sort of sim racing, there's a lot more pressure on, so definitely a unique environment for Michael Cozy Jr. here.
James, there's people coming straight from the pool. He's got an audience.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, that it's always fun, I think, whenever you're racing around, folks, to have an audience. Even when I've tried to, maybe go as high as 15th in NIS, I always get a little bit more jacked up when I've got people physically around me. So I think that definitely could be a benefactor to his performance this evening. Ryan Vargas, what about our segment 1 standings though in the Coke Series?
Absolutely. Segment 1 has really kind of shook things up quite a bit, and the biggest thing that I'm going to say right now, it's a familiar face at the top. Steven Wilson leads Segment 1. Remember, the Segment 1 winner gets $3,000 and 5 playoff points as a bonus there. So getting that segment victory, whether it's this one or the upcoming segments, it's a really big deal to get those points when it comes to playoff time. You'll see all the way down in 7th, Bobby Zielinski, our Charlotte winner. He is P7 here, but in the playoff standings, he's P2. So that's kind of one of those things you got to look at when it comes to the differences between the segment standings and the playoff standings. Connor Yurashek having a great start to his season. Christopher Hill, another driver who's really starting to show his strength here. And well, with the road course here, a brand new road course here with Naval Base Coronado, we're going to see a lot of chaos. But man, we have a lot of history at road courses.
And international domestic road courses that we take a look at what happened at Brands Hatch 2 years ago. Of course, the great battle between Bobby Zielinski and Steven Wilson. They make contact early on in the lap towards the end of the race, and Bobby Z is able to drive off to victory an hour outside of Greater London in the United Kingdom. Then we went to the street course in Chicago for the first time. This, the great battle between Bobby Zielinski and Parker White, where those two were nose to tail and within about a car length the entire race, Ryan, but you couldn't separate them. But Parker White also couldn't make the pass to win the race in the end either.
Absolutely. I mean, and look, there's a dominant factor here in a lot of these races. Yes, he doesn't win all the races that we're about to talk about, but Bobby Z continues to put himself at the front of the grid when it comes to the squiggly tracks.
Went down to Brazil and Interlagos. And this was a battle between Steven Wilson and Chente Salas, racing for Brazilian Tony Kanaan and Tony Kanaan Esports that day. Steven Wilson, though, able to drive away and get the victory down in South America. Got the job done for Spire. And then back to the street course in Chicago, where it was largely normal. And then we had all this chaos right at the end.
Oh,
right?
yeah. The incident,
and then so, where you had 3 guys come together, and one of them was able to sneak past the guys running first and second of that driver, Chente Salas, who for as much as he had been in the mix on road cases, probably had earned himself a win. So let's take a look at tonight's format. It is a fixed setup race. We're going to have 2 races this evening, a sprint race and a main race. Sprint race is 10 laps. Main race is 20 laps. Qualifying will set the grid for the sprint race. The top 8 from qualifying score points. 8th if you win the bowl. 1 if you qualify 8th. They get inverted amongst the top 8 and go. And then the finishing order of the sprint race will determine the grid for the main race. And standard points will be awarded at the end of the main race. So 30 laps of competition tonight, spread across 2 races. Alan, should be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Just to have this sort of format on a new track like this. And let's take a further look at this, Ryan, because look, we are introducing this to the world. iRacing helped develop this, and so many drivers, both in the real world and in the sim, are trying to learn every nuance of this place.
Absolutely. We'll take a look at our Logitech G track analysis here. We are at Qualcomm Circuit here in San Diego, California. This track is a massive 3.4 miles long, 16 corners. This Naval Base opened in 1917, and this is the first NASCAR race on the circuit, but it's not the first motorsport event. There was a couple of automotive festivals from the mid-90s to the early 2010s that took place here. And Jesse Wuji in our production call kind of laid a little bit of information there, so that was really cool to learn that. But look, we've had enough of this. Let's take a look at a lap around this racetrack, courtesy of producer Drew. And you see right off the bat, this place is super bumpy, hard to get the power down. There is such little grip, a very green racetrack as well, and that's going to come into play when you get these Goodyear Eagles underneath you. Whoa. Big drop right there, big downhill, heavy braking. It's going to get very tense down here. A lot of guys are going to be shuffling for track position. It is going to get very intense once you get into these tight situations, James.
Is that an aircraft carrier? Is that what I'm seeing in the distance, James?
That is an aircraft carrier. This is where we need Evan Pusoko to come in on the pre-race and educate us, because I know he knows more about planes and trains and things that are not automobiles compared to the rest of us. But I think one of the other interesting parts of this place, and especially in comparison to Chicago, there are a lot of differing widths and different points in the racetrack. You've got 4 lanes to work with here. Later on in the lap, you'll get down to 2 lanes, and then it'll spread out to 5 or 6 lanes. Chicago was generally pretty narrow all the way around. So I'm curious to see how the drivers adapt to that specific aspect of the Qualcomm circuit.
Absolutely. As we take a right through turns 6 and 7 here, it's a very technical little circuit here. A lot of tight corners follow each other. Look at how narrow it is. You can barely fit 3 cars through this section here. Heavy braking heading down into turn number 8, and look at how wide it gets. I think the course designers, when they built this racetrack, they knew that everybody was going to be funneling into that corner, and they knew they needed a lot of runoff. But look, you just see the massive airbase right there. Just all the width, all the room you have. But the biggest thing that I see about anytime we go to a street course, really, is just the lack of grip. We head to a chicane right here. Got to get us woe down just a wee bit here. But man, it just is so bumpy. You see right there, we are struggling to get the power down, going over those bumps, getting that rear tail kicked out. It's going to be really interesting to see how these NASCAR Cup Series cars go around here, but I'm also very interested to see how the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series cars take to this racetrack here once we get here this weekend, because, man, it is going to get intense. Final stretch of corners here. We head down into the chicane right here. This sets up for that final batch going down into the start-finish line here. Final corner right here, a little kink to the left, and that is a lap around Qualcomm Circuit here at Naval Base Coronado.
And that chicane right at the end, that was from feedback from drivers, SVG. A lot of drivers suggested having that. What'd you think of that, Ryan? Give us your final thought, especially coming to the finish line.
Treacherous is the word of the night. It is going to be an intense race tonight. Can anybody top Bobby Z when it comes to the road courses? I think Stephen Wilson has something to say about it, James.
Really fast chicanes towards the end of that lap as well. I think that's going to catch out somebody in the sprint of the main race. The question, Alan, is who?
Absolutely. This is an opportunity. We saw that there are names that are typically very good at these road courses, but a new track, a new layout is an opportunity for someone to go out there and take it, qualify for the playoffs, get that segment win, and help their playoffs and ultimately title hopes here in the championship series. What a night in store. The whole industry is watching. There's so much to learn, and they're going to learn from some of the best in sim racing. Stay with us. We're going green right after this.
History hits the runway as NASCAR takes on Coronado, an all-out celebration of speed.
Hey, push! I feel the need. I feel the need. Seriously, guys. Eat for speed.
This isn't just a race, it's a mission.
Every journey toward racing excellence begins the same way, with preparation. Practice is about consistency, because mastery isn't about where you start, it's about how you train. Feel the road, own the race. Logitech G wheels and pedals available now on Amazon.
On this version of the Echo Park Speedway, Steven Wilson gets the job done.
Every single moment, caught up in the motion, got no use for caution. Hope you're ready for a fight. I believe it, I can see it. If it's in my sights, I achieve it. Ain't no leaving, no defeat it. Show up, complete and repeat it. I believe it, I can see it. If it's in my sights, I achieve it. Ain't no leaving, no defeat it. Show up, complete and repeat it. Every day, prove that game. I always go 100%. Start to end. Every day, prove that game. I always go 100%. Start to end.
The road to $500,000 brings us for the first time to iRacing's virtual Qualcomm circuit at Naval Base Coronado, where we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 3 of the 2026 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series. We're happy that you're with us on the iRacing Esports Network, and as always, alongside myself, Evan Posoko, happy to be joined by the best wingmen in the eNASCAR business, Kenneth Bueno and Alan Cavana, along for the ride as always, guys. And KB, we've been looking forward to this one. I think this track, right, this San Diego weekend for weeks and months, but really on the eNASCAR side, it was only 2 weeks ago that we found out, surprise, segment number 1 is going to be at a brand new circuit to the iRacing service. Very fitting seeing how involved NASCAR was in the creation of this second road course in the modern NASCAR era.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see how iRacing and NASCAR have developed closely in partnership to not only develop some of the few tracks we've seen on the Coke Series schedule in prior years, but this Qualcomm circuit, in all of its challenging nature, they're going to get the experience first before the real-life drivers take it on this weekend, Alan. And I've heard from plenty of drivers, many of them say it's the hardest, if not one of the hardest tracks they've ever had to drive. So it's going to be in for a show tonight.
And that's the exciting part, to be a part of this historic moment, not only for NASCAR, for the Naval Base itself, but there are nearly 120 real-world drivers who have never seen this track that in just a few days will be on it in competition, and they're watching tonight to see and get every single nuance of this place before they get there on Friday. They need every moment they can get, and it starts tonight. Manufacturer sim time for the real-world NASCAR stars has been limited. This release in iRacing, I promise, has been used as a tool, and a lot of drivers in this series do a lot of sim work for those teams as well. So we take a look at where this leaves us on the schedule, Kenneth. Of course, we went through these changes last time we were with you. Originally, we were going to be racing in Iowa tonight. That race moved to the middle of segment number 2 in order to get Naval Base Coronado on the calendar today.
Yeah, and in the preseason, drivers were preparing for Mexico City to be the road course on the calendar, but they have had to adjust very quickly. Naval Base Coronado not only being the only road course on the calendar, but also being that closing ending to segment number 1, which would be very important for the points. Iowa, which used to be race number 5, now bumped a little bit down, or used to be race 3, bumped all the way down to race 5. So that'd be a short track, 2 short tracks in segment 2. That'll be very important with this one coming up right before.
And even with those changes, it keeps up the tradition of having a street circuit on the calendar. It'll be the 4th straight year that we have a street points race, Alan. And we talk about this track and its significance to the addition to the NASCAR calendar. Here's a quote from Ben Kennedy on that. Yeah, Ben Kennedy, Chief Operating Officer for NASCAR, just saying iRacing is an incredibly valuable part of how we bring new venues to life. Long before the first piece of pavement is laid, we're able to build, test, and experience these tracks in a virtual environment. The fact that fans can now drive Qualcomm Circuit on iRacing before we race there in person is a great example of how closely the virtual and real world work together at NASCAR. Certainly big throughout the industry, big in real life, big tonight. Guys, and it's not the first time that this has happened. Certainly Chicago and other tracks. So just another great stepping stone here with iRacing.
So that partnership continues tonight, and what you will see on track this weekend with the stars of NASCAR's Top Series, a great indicator as well. Well, there's a look at the drivers that are ready to go at it today with a Segment 1 title on the line as we get through the first 3 weeks of the season. That means $3,000 to a segment champion, 5 playoff points to be added later this year when the championship's on the line. And of course, the win and you're in, still a thing in this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series. Is it going to be a first-time winner on the season? When we talk about how unique this crossover is between NASCAR and the Navy, and the man that Alan Cavana has got right now is no better example of that.
Yeah, a man with many titles, a NASCAR driver, an esports owner, and as well an active member of the U.S. Navy. Proud to be joined by Commander Select Jesse Iwuji. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us. How you doing?
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to it. It's about to be an amazing week, an amazing night with a couple of our esports drivers for the ERA esports team driving tonight. You know, Bobby and Michael Cozy Jr. about to absolutely crush it on this amazing base race.
You know, we always talk about your separate worlds, right? How you're an active member of the Navy. You're also a NASCAR driver. This weekend, on Friday, starting tonight, actually, I mean, it all comes together in the same world. What is that like for you, melding these worlds together?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, for me, you know, when I was first getting into racing, I was still stationed down here in San Diego. And, you know, I was looking to, you know, figure out a way to get into it. And I was trying to figure out, you know, how do I even learn how to drive a race car if I can't go test one all the time? And that's what brought me into sim racing. I started using iRacing. One of my friends, you know, told me about it. I'm like, that's cool. I'll, you know, jump on the iRacing server, start learning. I bought a little sim for my house and, you know, was just practicing every single day before I started racing late models and so on. And now to see just how far sim racing has come and how closely NASCAR and iRacing work together to build out these cool tracks, especially when we have new ones like these street courses, it's pretty awesome. So to see the world come together is great. Now we've got this esports team that's competing. I'm racing this weekend as well in the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series in the number 91 Navy Exchange machine. And I'm just looking forward to a pretty epic weekend and week coming because we're here at my home base, no pun intended.
You've driven these streets before. Do you have, I don't know, do you have a little advantage out there this weekend?
You know what? I'd like to say I have an advantage, but like all these guys who are racing, they are so good. You know, all the drivers who race in our series, racing trucks, racing cup, you know, these folks, they're racing every single week. Because I'm a part-time driver, unfortunately, I don't get to go out every single week and race. So I'm always getting the races that I do run, I get here and I'm like, okay, I just got to catch up. I got to find some way to catch up and just keep up. At the end of the day, you just got to stay in the race. This race, especially these street courses, is all about attrition, right? So dodge the mess, stay in it, you know, don't do anything too wild and just be there at the end. And a lot of times you'll come away with a finish you didn't even expect.
The world's introduction to this track is here in the Coke Series on the sim. You have one of the best road course racers in sim racing here in the eNASCAR Championship Series in Bobby Z on your team. What have you learned from his laps? Have you picked his brain at all? We know he's probably one of the favorites tonight, but just in terms of what you've learned about this track from him and his talents, what can you say about him?
Yeah, I mean, watching Bobby and watching Michael, and both of them really amazing drivers. And, you know, Bobby, you know, started off the season great with a win for ERA esports team. So, you know, I know a lot of people are looking towards him to potentially secure a win today. I think he can. I think Michael can also have a great run as well. Who knows? I mean, anything can happen on these tracks. With a track like this, there's like literally no room for error, right? So it doesn't even matter, honestly, how good you are or this and that. Any little thing could happen that all of a sudden could, you know, potentially throw your day into a different realm. So I think, you know, Bobby has a lot of great skill. I think he's going to do great tonight. I would love for him to win. Michael's going to do great tonight as well. Would love for him to be up there too. But you know, I think together, them working together has been really awesome to see over the last couple of years. And, you know, yeah, we'll see what happens at the end of this race. Anything can happen, but hopefully we're on top.
What does it mean just for you personally to share this with your fellow service members and what they'll take away? We know what race fans will take away being such a cool venue. What do you hope your fellow service members take away from this?
You know what? With NASCAR coming to this military installation and holding the first ever like NASCAR National Series race at a base, it's really cool. I think it's definitely special to all the service members. My unit I'm with ACB1. They're helping out. They're actually a big part of actually helping build the track because we have a lot of tractors and MCVRs and a lot of equipment that we can use to help move around blocks and fences and things like that and carry equipment. That's what we do. We build beaches. So if we can build a beach for war, why can't we build a racetrack for war? So yeah, it's for the service members, they're actually a very integral part to even making this happen. NASCAR isn't just doing this alone. They're getting help from the Navy. It's all working together. Everyone's working together, one team, one fight. So to have them be a part of this whole thing in every shape and form, it's really cool to see. I know it means a lot to them, and they'll know that, hey, no matter how many times this race happens, whether it happens one time or happens a million times, they know that they were part of something very, very historic, and I know they're really appreciative of that.
Commander Select Iwuji, good luck this weekend, and thank you very much for everything. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
What a unique circumstance, guys, just to have Jesse as a part of this sport, as an owner here in the Coke Series. Very cool. All the worlds coming together.
Right, Jesse is so involved with various things here on the service, and again, this crossover, quite perfect. Well, we are getting ready to get tonight's program kicked off. Let's introduce you to your starting grid for today's sprint race. So qualifying has happened, and we are inverting your top 8 qualifiers. So based on that, the driver who will start the sprint race after qualifying 8th in the number 1 position is going to be Ryan Luza. He'll bring us to the green flag, and is going to be next to maybe the odds-on favorite, 7th best on the speed charts, P2 on the grid. It is ERA Esports' very own Bobby Zelensky. Back on row 2, the Canon Esports 66, the Sebastian Barron lines up next to your other race winner this season. It's the Spire Motorsports 77 of Steven Wilson. Row 3 will see the Channel 199 Sim Race at entry of Dylan Duval next to the Kansas City Pioneers 24 of Casey Kerwin. And on row 4, it is the Williams F1 Team Gaming 95 of Parker White and the William Byron Esports 97 of Tucker Minter. He's the one who is credited with pole, and he has already banked himself 8 points on the night.
And Evan, these are the drivers that are outside the top 8, so did not have to use the invert. And it starts with Zach Novak, the driver for Junior Motorsports, picked up his first top 5 of the season, or top 10 of the season, last few weeks ago at Echo Park Speedway with Rick Ware Racing's Daniel Falkingham, runner-up at Echo Park. Not that long ago, he's on the outside in the top 10 position. Sean Conklin in the number 17 RFK Racing Ford starts 11th. He's the leader of the rookie standings as it goes. Garrett Lowe for BS Plus Competition said he was very excited about the road courses this season. Well, he has one here at the outside of row number 6. Vicente Salas for Canon Esports won the Chicago Street Race back in 2025. He's looking to go back-to-back on road courses in the last history. And Wyatt Tinsley for Kansas City Pioneers. His number 20 Chevrolet is in 14th place. Nate Stewart for the Jim Beaver Esports Camp in his Ford Mustang Dark Horse lines his car in the top 15. And Quentin Warman for Hayek Motorsports, sophomore driver, lines it up 16th on the grid.
Continue on through row number 9, you'll find the FGRXL E-Racing 14 machine of Seth the Merchant, lined up next to the Latard Esports number 40 machine of Connor Urashak. Row 10, it is the BS Competition 89 of Jordy Lopez, next to the Hayek Motorsports 47 of Dylan Alt. That brings you halfway home in P20. Row 11 is the Rick Ware Racing 51 of Garrett Maines, next to the Apex Racing team number 98 of Cody Bias. And on row 12, it is the RFK Racing 6, that's Dylan Basin, next to the TC Esports 35 of Matthew Morton.
Pair of rookies on row number 13, starting with the Latart Esports number 36 of Thomas Lloyd. And Tommy Gossett in the 01 Vegas Inferno Toyota will be on the outside in 26th position. Christopher Hill for William Byron Esports is in 27th with Kenny Brady, rookie for Team Dillon Esports. His number 33 is 28th when we kick off tonight. Femi Olatunbosin for the Spire Motorsports Camp. His number 7 lines up inside row 15 with the other end of the TC Esports Camp, Jake Nichols, rounding out the top 30. Donovan Strauss for the Williams F1 Team Gaming Group is in 31st with Logan Helton, very special paint scheme for the 42. For E-Racer, he's on the outside in 32nd.
And continuing on through your final look of the drivers, row 17 is one of your Coca-Cola featured drivers, the Team Dillon Esports, number 3 of Blaze Crawford. He's next to your 34th place starter, the E-Racer 69 is Seth Knoll. Row 18 is the Channel 199 Sim Racing 86 car of Blake Reynolds. He's next to the Jim Beaver Esports 15 of Colin Keister. Row 19 sees the ERA Esports 34 of Michael Cozy Jr. And next to the Vegas Inferno 21 of Michael Gass, 37th and 38th. And then final row on the grid, the Apex Racing Team 16 of Ryan Doucette. And then Junior Motorsports 88 of Malik Ray in 40th. That's a look top to bottom at your Coca-Cola starting grid for this races. We pace behind the pace car and get a nice high and above view of all the different looks. Downtown San Diego just in the background as these drivers race through the part of the racetrack that is kind of the turns 8 and 9 section onto the back half. Let's talk you through what you're going to see here tonight with this special sprint race format. We've already mentioned a little bit of it, Kenneth, but we dive deeper with a look with Coca-Cola.
Yeah, and this race analysis is in split in two. So we have the sprint race here, 10 laps only, 34 miles at a 3.4 mile circuit here at Qualcomm. 35 miles an hour down pit road speed, but that won't be necessary in the 10-lap sprint, nor possibly in the 20-lap feature race that we'll have, our main race that we'll have later on tonight. The drivers do have 2 sets of tires if they want to bolt on new Goodyear Eagles, but they don't necessarily need to because of the estimated pit window. We don't really have one. There are no planned stops in this sprint race. Just run it till it's done, lap 1 to lap 10.
Such a fun and unique look at all of the different sites that are so unique to only this Qualcomm circuit here at Naval Base Coronado. Not the first time we've mentioned that there's been racing at this racetrack in the past. The base held the Coronado Speed Festival from 1997 to 2016, but this NASCAR layout more than double the length of what we saw in that event previously. So again, based on qualifying, the top 8 drivers scored points, 8 to first, 7th to second, so on and so forth until one single point was given to P8. Those points have been cashed in, and they are the only points that have been scored so far. So now in this sprint race, your fastest car in qualifying has to start with the top 8 invert. It'll be number 8 on the grid, but there are no points available in this sprint race. This 10-lap sprint will really be to just re-line you up when we get set to go for the feature race a little bit later on this afternoon. It's this format we've seen the last couple of seasons, and it's been a fun one. On the front row, courtesy of the flip, it's Luza and Zelensky. Green flag in the air for the sprint race in San Diego. Downhill turn 2, the Carrier corner coming up soon. Turn 5, you see it there in the distance as they head down Rogers Road. Left-hand turn 3. Some of the most elevation change you'll see is that short run down as now they head on to 2nd Street. So far, so good. Through the mid-pack. Right-hand kink, that's turn number 4. And then they'll get to the higher speed part of the racetrack down to turn 5.
And then we get probably, Evan, to the most dangerous part of the circuit right there under the Andero Bridge. There's a huge bump. Drivers can easily get unsettled behind the rear wheels of the race car. Hard to plant the power and then hard on the brakes into turn 6 and 7. Look how narrow this track gets. You can barely fit a full car through the exit of turn 7. Lucky going side by side, but everyone's single filing out. Few cars side by side for now, but a great start from the field in the first half.
I am just in awe. We saw a lot of preview video of test laps, but this are views that we have just not seen before. Taking in just the scenery around Naval Base Coronado right now, into the neighborhoods, onto the naval base itself, the runways, everything in there, and just seeing how thin and how skinny some of these raceways are. It looks like the entry to a pitway instead of an actual racetrack. This is so unique and so far clean and green here in the sprint race.
This part of the racetrack, too, where you're basically on the ramp, shows you that it's kind of free reign, right? We use some of the roads of the base in the first half, and then this is a blank canvas here to do whatever they wanted to build the second half of this racetrack. It was a pretty clean start for everybody as we approach the end of our first 3.4-mile lap, and there it is with Ryan Luza still in the lead. We did have a spin. It was Christopher Hill towards the rear of the field. He started 27th. He dropped down to P40, got the car back going, no further issue. Worth noting there will not be any full course cautions in this sprint or in the feature, no matter what happens. So we will see just how crazy things may get. As you can see, your top three tightly condensed together. Luza, the leader, and your two race winners on the year, Zelensky and Wilson, in hot pursuit.
And remember, Evan, the finishing order in this sprint race will determine the starting order for the main race later on tonight. So the drivers easily have been aggressive in the first lap or so. They know how tough this track is to drive, but they have to be in that mindset of race each other and then start racing the track, because you want to gain at least a little bit of track position that you can, so that when that feature race eventually does start, it gets much easier. Look at turn 6, dive from Steven Wilson on the outside of Bobby Zelensky. Outskirts turn 7, very narrow, can't quite make the complete pass there, but he'll try once again. We saw the right tuck to the back bumper of Ryan Luza, and again, it's just unbelievable the pace that these drivers have. 2:03s in qualifying, Evan. From laps I've done, I can only do a 2-minute 13-second lap. I'm almost 10 seconds slower than that.
Getting a second look at what happened with Christopher Hill. That's the Logitech car left to your screen. Looks like in front of them they were jockeying for position. He survives the first one, and right there, 3 wide, gets turned out of shape. That was the left-hand turn 3, which that kind of part of the racetrack, turns 2 and 3 are two 90-degree plus corners back-to-back. Got a little bit out of shape, and it got turned around. Does not look like that car has any damage, but again, it is not going to put him in a great spot, because the finishing positions for this sprint determines where you will start for the feature when it is big money on the line. So we saw Wilson make the move for the number 2 spot, was not able to get there, and it has opened up a bit of a gap now to give Zelensky a bit of a buffer per se in the order that they run right now. You're looking off of the back of race leader Ryan Luza. Knows that he's got a tall order in hand to keep that man behind him. 2 of the 3 street circuit races in series history have been won by the driver in that second position, Bobby Zelensky. And Alan, you guys talked about the moment. It was Chicago a year ago. Vicente Salas would go on to win it, but that doesn't tell the full story. That was another race that Bobby Zelensky was in the mix in.
No surprise to see Vicente, to see Steven Wilson, Bobby Zelensky up there in the mix already. Here's a great shot of him working his magic. What's impressive so far to me is Ryan Luza holding off guys like Bobby Zelensky and Steven Wilson, and seeing the different parts of this track. This sprint race really allows them to learn in real time, right? The passing zones and exactly where and what can work. Sure, you can practice it, but we saw Steven Wilson try to make a pass in what is the most narrow part, maybe in all of NASCAR and all of the eNASCAR Championship Series, and it didn't work out. He lost a little track position there, lost a little ground at least on Bobby Zelensky. So where can he gain that back? That's what can be learned in this sprint race right now, and it's just so interesting to see some of the best learning on the fly.
And Alan, I love this sequence right here, because the last lap, the drivers are setting 2-minute 12-second laps. They're already comfortably in 2-minute 5-second laps. So they're about 7 full seconds faster from lap to lap. You can tell they got real comfortable behind the wheel of their race cars.
As you get onboard perspective with Casey Kerwin in the number 4 position to show you how he navigates the twists and turns as they head through turn number 13. Left-hander, turn 14, right-hander, the next corner. That's all down on kind of the back half of what is Runway Road. Another driver did have issues on the previous lap. Seth DeMerchant got into the wall in the final corner, turn 16, just kind of nicked it trying to cut the corner too tight, got damage, and is towed to pit road. His sprint race is likely done. So Seth DeMerchant with the challenge after, again, an issue in the final corner, as we're already working lap number 4 of 10. It is a long track, in fact, the longest track on the calendar. But the way that these drivers are pushing the pace means that this thing's going to go by pretty quickly.
I mean, they're getting air. I mean, do you see that? I mean, this is e-air that we're seeing, virtual air maybe, but I mean, this is, you don't want to call it a jump, but it is certainly a dip as you come off turn 1 and driving down, I think, but into turn 2. Interesting feeling. You saw it on some of the test laps, but to see it in the race like this, I am just looking so forward to the in real life stuff this weekend.
This right here is the battle for the number 8 position as they run right now. Sebastian Marin, the lead car in this mix, is your highest running rookie as they go right now, scored in the number 8 spot. Conklin in 12th, Basin 17th. The next closest rookies. This is one of the largest rookie classes we've seen in some time. 9 drivers this year. Since 2023, in fact. We have not seen a rookie class this large, and Seb Marin doing a good job. We saw how impressive he was in the qualifying series, but typically, if we see a shot like this, where they're starting to stack up behind you, KB, it means that you got to pick the pace up or you're going to be ushered out of the way at some point.
Yeah, and this was all in the sequence of letting his teammate by in Vicente Salas for Canon Esports. So those two Toyotas got at it, and Marin is just really trying to survive for his life. And look at this pass coming into the back half of the Qualcomm circuit. Bobby Zelensky got around the number 12 machine of Ryan Luza, and all of a sudden Steven Wilson wants to make it an even battle going into turns 14 and 15, and through this final chicane that's really reminiscent of the Charlotte Roval on the back straightaway. Very similar type of corner, just with tire barriers everywhere. Easily thought better than to keep it double filed through a very fast-paced part of the track.
But again, talk about learning on the fly. Bobby Zelensky took 4 laps, which is, they're long laps here as we're now halfway through this sprint race on lap 5, but just picking apart the exact places to make a pass. And now you can see him open up this huge lead and really get to show off the road course racing skills, the street course racing skills we know Bobby Z has. But it was all about learning, taking those few laps and what he can apply. Now he's made the pass and he's off and running.
So it was a good lap around for Zelensky to go to the top of the board. It was a rough lap for Casey Kerwin. He dropped 3 positions, getting passed by Minter, White, and Salas. All in really about 6 corners or so. He drops down into the number 7 position. Tucker Minter was the one who initiated that. Is he the driver to look for as we get later into this run? He's got a front row seat of Steven Wilson, who is still trying to get around Ryan Luza. I thought when the 12 got beat by the 22 that Wilson was going to be right there to pounce on it as well. He couldn't. And again, if you kind of get stuck behind the 12 here at all, I'm watching that split interval for the leader. Zelensky loving what's happening behind him because he's already opened up an advantage of about 1.3 seconds, the biggest gap for the race leader we've seen so far.
And it just shows you, Evan, not only how tough this Qualcomm circuit is to drive, but how difficult it is to make passes at. Bobby had to meditate and really premeditate that lap that he got around Ryan Luza in, eventually finding the right place with the momentum. And Steven Wilson has to do the same thing, and once a failed attempt is made, you lose all of that momentum, and then all of a sudden you just have to hit the reset button, and it takes you a few more laps to regain enough confidence and momentum to be able to find at least an opening to make a pass, which is not fully confirmed just because of how tough this track is based on how narrow it is and all the bumps that are featured across the circuit. Oh, there's trouble at the back of the field. One of the cars way slow on the racetrack. That was Garrett Maines catching some right rear damage, but it just takes so long to build up these passes, and it just tells you how tough it is. Oh, here comes the 51 hard into the tire barriers at the Pala Casino stretch. Just had nowhere to go, car locked up, and now he's the second car out of the sprint race.
We're seeing mistakes. Not mistakes, but look, this is a new track they're all learning. We saw Steven Wilson just the lap before kiss the wall when Tucker Minter was following him, and he just saw that lead evaporate. Now Tucker Minter right on his bumper. It's one of those tracks, we see it from time to time, where you have to be patient. Think about Darlington, where they tell you about race the racetrack. You're almost waiting on others to make a little mistake and then pounce when they do. We saw Steven Wilson kiss the wall there once. Tucker Minter couldn't take quite advantage of it, but it's going to happen to each one of these drivers sometime throughout the night. It's just a matter of minimizing those mistakes.
It was a 2-parter with Garrett Maines, replaying the bottom of your screen. He's going to get a little bit of assistance. Car looking inside, there's the touch, and there's nothing soft about that. That's a heavy impact to the right-hand side of that car. And then 2 corners later is when we picked it up, and that thing smoking it as he's on the brakes. You can see the left front smoking, but it just would not turn to the left at all. Straight into the tires, so Maines toes to pit road. His day's done. Matthew Morton also got some sort of significant damage and was black flagged, forced to come to pit road for repairs. So Maines, Morton, Hill, and DeMerchant, 4 drivers who are out of this sprint race. before we have crossed the halfway point. So it has been an adventurous start to this Qualcomm circuit here in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series. Still a long way to go as Casey Kerwin looks like he took the shortcut maybe through that corner previously to the inside of the tire packs. That's likely going to give him a slowdown as he'll have to yield some of the time gained before he can pick his pace back up.
And a lot of drivers were focusing on the braking markers for this track, and sometimes how there are kind of a lack of braking markers because you feel like you can go later in the corner than you do, and then you realize you have 750 horsepower behind the hood of these next-gen cars, and then you're immediately sailing farther than you think you are. And especially in that turn 10-11 part, it's a very flowy section, but you have to pinpoint accurate, get it right, or else you end up like Casey Kerwin. Thankfully, there is that big gap in between the main tire barrier and the rest of the tire barriers on the inside, so you could cut the track and have to regain that time of slowing down on the racetrack itself. However, you don't get a tracked race car, you don't get a destroyed race car, if you will, so that's the good news.
That is certainly better than the alternative of a wall of tires or something else. And well, we mentioned a special paint scheme on Logan Helton's car. We saw that on the grid, but here is a better look at the driver of the number 42 machine, and very fitting that he is still got all his great partners on that car, but that is a Blue Angels inspired Toyota Camry. Of course, fitting very well with us being on a naval base. It's the Navy's aerial demonstration team, the Blue Angels. There's a picture of him on the left-hand side of that one. He's grown up a little bit since that one was taken, but it is a instantly recognizable Blue Angels color palette that has been on those F-18s that they use for some time now. And there's also some F-18s around this racetrack. We'll take a look at some of the other planes that are around this naval station here on iRacing a bit later on. But fun to see Logan Helton and that team getting in the spirit.
And he works in aeronautics, in the aircraft field at an FBO in Texas, and great cool connection that he can put that all together, Logan Helton, to see if he can perform a little bit better on track. But a beautiful tribute to the Blue Angels there, and a cool backstory nonetheless. And we're seeing, look at this race up front. Parker White has made some really impressive passes at this track, got by Tucker Minter, just got by Steven Wilson in some of the most treacherous portions of this track. That driver, that white number 95 this week, is really making up a lot of ground.
This battle you continue to look at, again, is all for second position odd back. Zelensky's advantage now more than 3 seconds once he was able to get out in front. And again, Ryan Luza has no prerogative to get out of the way and let anybody else try to get up to Bobby. And I think that Steven Wilson kind of used his stuff up, try to be so aggressive, because now it seems like the fastest man in this group is Parker White, has driven his way up to the number 3 spot. He is all over the back bumper of Aluza. You just got to pick and choose when is your best passing opportunity. Right-hander, turn number 4 right here. High speed, and then turn 5 carrier corner here, though. You have to get on the binders, but it's not a 90-degree corner. It's kind of hard to establish positioning in that battle for a second. But right here, high speed. It's going to be a heavy braking zone down to turn number 6. If you're close enough, it's a place that you could think about it. He is not close enough that time.
Yeah, but also you think of what's ahead of turn 6, and that's turn 7, how narrow that portion of the track gets. And we already saw an attempted pass out of turn 7, and we saw how well that went in terms of them going back single file and then the driver behind having to chase once more. So again, like I said, it takes so long to just plan out your attack on the driver in front. Almost having to think of war tactics, having the intelligence on your side to be able to pick and choose when you want to have your battles and when you feel like you can win that battle, given in any specific corner. And I think Parker is seeing this tarmac-based second sector of this Qualcomm circuit to be able to make that pass. Looking outside on Luza as a great battle for 21st is building up in the rearview mirror. Blake Reynolds taking a look to the inside. Beautiful pass down low on Thomas Lloyd.
Parker White's trying to get another one. Remember, the results of this race help determine the lineup for the big event here in just a few minutes. So Parker White trying to get every position he can. And it seems like each one of his passes has been made in a different part of this racetrack, and that's what he's learning and seeing. He tried not too long ago in a different section, didn't quite work out, and now he is hunting down Ryan Luza as we come down to just 2 to go in this sprint race and see how much Parker White can pick up here. He can't close the gap likely on Bobby Zielinski, but he can give himself a great starting position for the big race.
I do wonder, obviously the track has been out on the service for about a week to this point. How much, these drivers, I'm sure, have put in laps after laps after laps, full runs, trying to kind of simulate a race environment to not have anything come up and surprise them. But I am still curious. Zielinski's out there 3.4 seconds, seemingly still pushing. Obviously, you're not getting points, but again, unless something really goes wrong, he'll have the #1 starting spot when we go for the feature race. I'm just curious if there's anything left, KB, for him to learn up there, right? The incentive to maybe still push, to try to gain some additional knowledge out of these last, call it a lap and a half, whereas these drivers in the battle for second on the back are just fighting for their lives.
But regardless of whether Zielinski is pushing or not, seat time is still important. So he's still learning the ins and outs of this Qualcomm circuit, maybe where he can push a little deeper. But one of the reasons why he goes out by almost 3.5 seconds is so that he has a buffer. So if he does over push a specific corner, he loses maybe a bit of time. It's not going to be as drastic as if maybe he's right a tenth in front of Ryan Luza. And then not only does he have Luza in the rearview mirror, but he has all of these other cars that have seemingly conglomerated together to create. Look at Parker White on the inside, one of the tightest parts of this Qualcomm circuit. And Parker is there to the inside of the racetrack that is looking to turn 12 and maybe a possibility now 13 to get there. Parker's going to sling the outside through 14, and he's got the spot up to second.
Wow, what an impressive move. I think we're going to see more of that as the night goes on, where there's no real great passing opportunities. Sometimes you just have to make it yourself, and that's what Parker White did there through that series of turns, through this final chicane. As we get to, I think we're coming to 1 to go here in this sprint race. Parker White making his own lane. Sometimes they're going to have to force the pass, and that's what we just saw.
And Luza made a mistake. He got the fence off at turn 16 coming to the start-finish line, and it's going to cost him maybe a spot because Minter trying to get underneath him to make the pass. He's going to be right alongside as they make the short run down to 3. Watching from behind is the number 11 Vicente Salas. He wants in on the action also. 2 spots lost and a handful of corners after Luza was able to hold on for so long. Now Kerwin, next driver out. Kerwin in the red Coca-Cola colors, going to have inside positioning for turn 5 carrier corner. He's got the job done, and the floodgates have opened as Ryan Luza about a lap short on being able to maintain all that track position that he fought so hard to hang on to.
So hard to find grip here at the Qualcomm circuit, and even then so when you put all these laps in, even through a sprint race that is relatively short, the tires start falling away, and a magnificent pass from Vicente Salas. He's up 8 spots since the drop of the green in this sprint race, guys. He was a force at the Chicago Street Course race last season, and all of a sudden in the fight for a top 5 to start there once this main gets underway.
And now final couple of corners for the top drivers here in this sprint race. Again, points were handed out earlier for the top 8 drivers in qualifying. There are no points on the line here. But if you can make another late race pass as Salas goes wide and Kerwin gets another one, then that's going to help their starting position for the feature. Up the road, some 4 seconds. It's the fastest man in San Diego. Bobby Zielinski drove his way to the top spot. He comes into this as the heavy favorite, and he's going to start the feature from pole. Zielinski, it's a sprint race, checkered flag at Qualcomm Circuit.
It's great
couple
stuff all
other
around.
battles. That's for the number, call it 16th spot. Nate Stewart, Dylan Basin. It's a tight turn 16. They will stay in order across the line. Now you jump back, looking at the 0-1 of Tommy Gossett trying to chase down Donovan Strauss.
And these are all for sacred track position. Again, you start where you finish here in this sprint race. And Tommy Gossett trying to get there. I mean, that's such a tough and difficult final corner. Turn 16, it's kind of high speed, but it's also not. You got a very big dip at the back end of it. And how about this? Kenny Brady giving the chrome horn. Seth Knoll, battle for position 31 at the back of the field, trying their best to move each other out of the way, but Knoll's going to gain the spot in 31st.
that left-hand kink coming onto the front straight reminds me visually of Sonoma, but it just looks so much tighter. They're all the way to the right-hand side because they got to get close to those barrels for the pit entry to make the corner, that left-hand turn, as wide as they can make it. But then even then, again, that inside wall on 16 has caught out several drivers already in this sprint, and curious if that's going to continue to be a storyline as we go into the feature right here. All the way to the right, watch the barrels to try to maximize, Alan, how close you can get to that wall on the left-hand side.
Well said when you made the Sonoma comparison, only because that's where pit road is. No pitting tonight, but that barrel is still very there and a major part of the course.
So let's take a look at your sprint race results here from the Qualcomm circuit at Naval Base Coronado. So Bobby Zelensky gets the race win and leads a Chevrolet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Parker White is second. Stephen Wilson third. We'll get a word with at least one of them maybe here in a minute. Tucker Minter comes home fourth, and Casey Kerwin in the number 5 spot. Vicente Salas ends up in the number 6 spot. Ryan Luza is 7th. Seb Marin still the highest rookie at 8th. Dylan Duval's 9th, and Zach Novak rounds out your top 10.
Back in 11th is Garrett Lowe. Quentin Warman behind him in 12th spot. Sean Conklin rounds out in 13th. Daniel Falkingham 14th. And Connor Euroshak rounding out the top 15. Then you got Stuart Basin, that battle to the end. Dylan Alt, Jordy Lopez, and Cody Bias, the top 20.
Continue on through into the 20s. Again, a lot of these drivers had a relatively quiet night when it was all said and done. You got Thomas Lloyd, Donovan Strauss, Tommy Gossett, the top half of the page, and down towards the bottom, Michael Guest and Ryan Doucette bring us through P30. Behind here, now we start looking at some drivers, Kenneth, who had some trouble.
Yep, of course, we had drivers in trouble with Wyatt Tinsley, damaged late, Malik Ray, Seth the Merchant, Garrett Maines ended up out very quickly, so did Matthew Morden, and Christopher Hill ended up with a spin on lap number 1 and just couldn't recover. That's where they will start for the main. Tough road ahead of them.
Well, it's not going to count as a pole or a win in the record books, but Bobby Zelensky wins the sprint race, Alan. That means he is starting P1 for the feature. You're with him.
Better than a trophy, valuable experience. Bobby, it's one thing to do laps and make practice on this track. What was it like to race and have competition?
Yeah, it's really intense. Really glad we can represent Navy Exchange here and get at least the pole for the feature. But yeah, I mean, I had a lot more pace than Ryan, but it's still really hard to pass. You know, obviously everyone talks about dirty air and stuff too, but just had to really just find the right moment to get by them, and now this is where the real challenge begins.
Yeah, we saw a lot of learning, experimenting, figuring out where those passing zones are. What did you learn in those 10 laps?
Yeah, I already kind of figured some places where you'd be able to pass, but now I gotta get a good start, hold the lead if I can, which whole different thing. I mean, you saw me and Lisa side by side into turn 1, so it's real even here, and got a real fast dude in Parker behind me that we've had a lot of good battles. So look forward to it.
Yeah, Bob. Well, good luck tonight. I know you're racing. There's a lot of layers to this, including the boss man who wants you to get the win for many reasons. So good luck tonight, Bobby.
We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside. It's a hydration break, right? That's what they call it these days. As these drivers get set, the feature race from Qualcomm Circuit at Naval Base Coronado. When we come back, you're watching the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series.
History hits the runway as NASCAR takes on Coronado, an all-out celebration of speed.
Hey, push! I feel the need. I feel the need. Seriously, guys. Eat for speed.
This isn't just a race, it's a mission.
Every journey toward racing excellence begins the same way, with preparation. Practice is about consistency, because mastery isn't about where you start, it's about how you train. Feel the road, own the race. Logitech G wheels and pedals, available now on Amazon.
Back live in San Diego, where coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. By Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of eNASCAR. And by NASCAR 25, NASCAR's official video game, available now on the Xbox Store, PlayStation Store, and the Steam Store. Well, our coverage of round 3 of this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series continues. The feature race is coming up next for the all-new Qualcomm circuit at Naval Base Coronado. We saw a really exciting sprint race to get things kicked off. Let's take a look at the highlights. It was not Zelensky who started in the number 1 position, but the chaos started opening lap behind him.
Yet again, drivers saying in the lead up to this race, Evan, this is one of the hardest tracks they've ever had to drive. And that's racing by yourself in test and qualifying. But bring all 40 cars on there, and it becomes a very different story. Ryan Luza, give him credit, held up for many laps in the sprint race at the front of the field. But we knew Bobby Zelensky was going to be hunting very quickly, and it didn't take him too long before he eventually found his way to the inside. Very tight section of the corner, that's turn 12. And look at all of this, bouncing all over this Qualcomm circuit, and trouble beyond. Many drivers found the walls, some the tire barriers, but everyone just trying to find a kiss of life into the top 10 to be able to have a good start. Just playing with the danger zone, Bobby Zelensky ended up winning the sprint.
And I don't know if I walk away from that sprint learning where the optimal passing zone is or not. It seems like these drivers kind of had to make it wherever they could. Want to take this chance as well to remind you that NASCAR 25 is available now. It's NASCAR's official video game that features an all-new in-depth career mode featuring Dale Jr. and Dirty Mo Media. You can race in all 4 of NASCAR's National Touring Series. That's ARCA, Truck, O'Reilly, and Cup, and have action on 30-plus NASCAR tracks that are laser-scanned replicas, just like you see right here in iRacing. Again, it's available PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Available now. You can scan the QR code on your screen or go to NASCAR 25 for more information. Well, we are ready. So let's go back down trackside and take a look at your Coca-Cola starting grid for today's San Diego feature race. And it is your results from the sprint earlier. So Bobby Zelensky is going to bring the ERA Sports team off of P1, and the number 22 brings us the green flag tonight. He'll be joined by the Williams F1 team, Gaby 95 of Parker White in second. Behind him, Steven Wilson, your race winner from 2 weeks ago, starts third in the Spire Motorsports 77. He's next to the William Byron Esports 97 and Tucker Mincher, who is one of the best cars 10 laps in to that sprint. Row 5, we'll see the Kansas City Pioneers 24 of Casey Kerwin next to the Canadi Sports number 11 of Vicente Salas, and behind them in the next couple spots, 7th position goes to Ryan Luza. Sebastian Marin will roll from position number 8.
Dylan Duval rounds out the top 9 with Zach Novak on the outside of him to close the top 10 for Junior Motorsports. PS Plus competition, Garrett Lowe, he's 11th to start with Quentin Warman, the Hayek Motorsports Chevrolet on the outside in 12th position. Sean Conklin for RFK Racing is 13th with Daniel Falkingham for the Rick Ware Racing Group on the outside in 14th for row 7. Row 8, you'll find the Latart Esports Chevrolet of Connor Neuroshak with sophomore in the Jim Beaver Esports Ford, Nate Stewart in 16th.
Row number 9, you'll see the RFK Racing number 6 at Dylan Basin next to the Hayek Motorsports 47. That's going to be Dylan Alt at 18th. Row number 9, P19 starter. It is the BS Competition 89 of Jordy Lopez. And to the outside of row 10, the Apex Racing Team 98 of Cody Bias. Row number 11, 21st starter, the Channel 199 Sim Racing 86 of Blake Reynolds. Next to the Latardi Sports 36 of Thomas Lloyd in 22nd. Behind them, it's the Williams F1 Team Gaming 4 of Donovan Strauss with some work to do to catch his teammate. He starts 23rd, and 24th is the Vegas Inferno 01 of Tommy Gossett.
Row 13 will feature the TC Esports number 73 of Jake Nichols and the Jim Beaver Esports number 15 of Colin Keister back in 26th place. The Coca-Cola Chevrolet for Tim Thielen Esports, Blaze Crawford is 27th. Logan Helton for E-Racer is back in 28th with Michael Guest of Vegas Inferno Toyota in 29th inside row 15. And the Apex Racing number 16 of Ryan Doucette rounds out the top 30. The other end of the E-Racer camp, Seth Knoll starts this one from 31st, and Kenny Brady for the Team Dylan Esports camp is 32nd. We saw those two battling nose to tail in this sprint.
Row 17, you'll find the ER Esports Team 34 of Michael Cozy Jr., hoping to get some notes from his teammate up on pole. And the Spire Motorsports number 7 of Femi Olatunbosin. Those were kind of the last cars that did not have trouble in the sprint. So issues in the sprint from this point on to back. Row 18, the Kansas City Pioneers number 20 of Wyatt Tinsley, and the Jada Motorsports number 88 of Malik Gray in 35th and 36th. Now, Seth the Merchant, somebody to watch. He's the outlier back here. 17th best on speed in single car qualified, but 37th on the grid. What can he do from back there in traffic? The Rickware Racing 51 of Garrett Maines is next to him. And on row 20, it's the TC Esports 35 of Matthew Morton and the William Byron Esports 25 of Christopher Hill, who was involved in an accident that cut his sprint race short. We'll talk one more time about our race analysis and how this all plays together, Kenneth, now that we transition to the feature and full NASCAR points now on the line.
And here is the main race analysis brought to you by Coca-Cola. So we double it up here in the main race, 20 laps instead of the 10 we had. So instead of 34 miles, we have 68 total miles. Pit road is not really a factor. We didn't see any planned stops in the sprint race because it was so short. 20 laps here in the main race might give the incentive for drivers to think about pit road a little bit, but again, it's not long enough of a race to be able to warrant coming down the pit lane for any extra service.
There's a look on board. Michael Cozy Jr. out of Hagerstown, Maryland. He's going to have a view of the chaos. Again, I would not say that the sprint race was calm, but it certainly wasn't that chaotic. A lot of the challenges were single cars getting into the wall or a battle between two cars. We didn't see a track blocker is what I'm trying to say without jinxing it, Alan. Same number of cars, double the laps. They're going to try to take the lessons learned, and we'll see if the start here is any more aggressive.
You leave the jinxing to me in this series. I'm guilty of plenty of that. But we're looking at Michael Cozy Jr. We heard from him in the pre-show, the Countdown to Green, of course, running for Jesse Iwuji, the Navy veteran, the current naval member of the U.S. of the government here in NASCAR, and he'll run in real life. But he's got two good drivers tonight. Certainly Bobby Zielinski and his teammate Michael Cozy Jr. wanting to do well tonight. Michael Cozy actually at Naval Base Coronado tonight, racing with an audience. So we'll see how he does with people watching as we get ready to get this event going.
It's going to be a fun weekend of NASCAR racing. We're happy to unofficially get it kicked off right here, right now. On the front row, Bobby Zielinski in control. Let's go racing in San Diego. Parker White had the better start, but had trouble as he came out of turn number 1. He'll drop all the way back to the number 4 position. Zielinski still leads, but now it's Steven Wilson to second. Tucker Minter up to the number 3 spot.
And we saw him on that drop end going into turn number 2. That's where Tucker Minter likes to call it the one scene from Cars where Lightning McQueen is just dropping down the desert cliff. That's what it feels like when you're driving a heavy stock car down there in turn 2. Parker got way sideways. It opened up the door, and he just could not slam it back down shut. And Minter made his way to the inside, and it all just opened up from there. Steven Wilson had a shot to give the bump and run to Bobby Zelensky in turn 2. Now they are nose to tail coming into the back half of the circuit.
Yeah, clean so far for Bobby Zelensky. What he didn't have in that sprint race really was a challenger. None so far yet. Who can keep up with him? I mean, we're seeing how important having the lead is, having that clean air. Bobby Zelensky just trying to drive away as fast as possible, and everybody else behind him battling it out to be that position for the driver who's chasing him. Can Tucker Minter get past Steven Wilson and make a challenge on Bobby Z before it's too late? That's what they're trying to figure out right now on this opening lap. A lot of action out here on the first lap.
Bit of a situation, guys. There was a wreck at the back of the field coming to the start-finish line. Malik Ray, one of the drivers involved, that car is still stopped on the front straightaway. And we've already talked about how tight it is to navigate that part of the racetrack. Typically, drivers can just reset, basically remove themselves, not actually have to drive around to the pit entry. He's been struggling to do so. Now he's able to get that car clear after being removed from the race. So that car had to be removed from the racetrack, basically, from race control to clear it. He was parked right there on the wall where these guys just went through at 140 miles an hour 10 seconds ago. So the racetrack gets clear, but that was almost a very weird situation developing. Track is clear, we race on, and they all try to do the daunting task of catching Bobby Zelensky. Let's watch back at another moment from lap number 1.
And this is coming into part of the toughest places to pass.
Oh.
Turn 6 and 7. Oh, Quentin Mormon, a hard hit to the inside wall. And then there was further trouble up the road because of this. Sean Conklin, that red, white, and blue Ford Mustang is in the middle of this all. Watch the 40 of Connor Yuroshek. So he's on the outside here. Bam, he gets a touch from Sean Conklin. Again, we talk about how tight turn 7 is. You can barely fit one car in there. How about the whole field trying to get around now a minimized, more narrow part of the Qualcomm circuit? Man, a lot of chaos here in the opening lap of this main race, and everything has come about boiling over the first lap.
And I know there's so much talk. Look, this is a historic event, a seminal event for what we are looking at now. We're focused so much on it, but this is part of the larger championship run, right? I mean, the drivers and teams are going for points and trying to maintain their positions. These early wrecks, Malik Ray on the first lap, I mean, this is a detrimental hit to their entire season. Not only this race, we can't forget about that.
And with that shortened regular season, only 9 weeks under this new format, a lot less opportunities to have those kind of mistakes. And speaking of a mistake, Parker White inside of the tire packs. We saw Casey Kerwin do that earlier. He has a black flag slowdown penalty. That car does not need to go anywhere and come to a complete stop, but it needs to yield race pace by X amount of seconds. So that's why you saw him back the pace off. That penalty has now been cleared, so he has backed off his pace enough to where the sim automatically has decided he has given up any time advantage he gained by cutting that tire pack. But he had to slow down enough that actually allowed Steven Wilson to make the pass on him. So Parker White going to have to try to get back around Steven Wilson, a pass that he had just made a few laps ago.
And there's also that very specific method of creating that slow down effect and also being able to clear it from your sim when you have it on top of your UI when you're driving in the middle of the course. And that's, of course, to try and back off a little bit, whether it be the entry of a corner or maybe the exit, but you let off enough so that the car just loses so much of that forward momentum that even if you do try and push the next few corners, that time is going to naturally just bleed away given how you slowed down in the previous sector or the previous corner. So that's what Parker did to not only give away the track position and have enough to clear that penalty for slowdown, but also not lose too much time, because if he tried to slow down the car a ton and clear it all in one go, Tucker Minter, Vicente Salas, Casey Kerwin, they are all right behind, a chance for them to peek around. But Parker doing what the pros do, try to clear that penalty without losing too much of that sacred time at a track that we've seen has become very hard to pass at.
It was a good job of damage limitation to only have to yield that one spot by slowly bleeding the time that he had to yield, to your point, as opposed to just simply pulling over, hitting the brakes, and getting that time yielded back in bulk. So now he has to try to get back around Steven Wilson in the number 77 machine. These two drivers have been near each other a lot tonight, both in the sprint race and to get tonight's feature kicked off. But it's a position that Parker had been in before. He was about fourth in line by the time he got things single filed out on lap one of this race. Made a pass on Chucker Minter, made a pass on Steven Wilson. Now he's going to try to do it again. But, I mean, it is difficult enough. Just ask Ryan Luza-Allen to defend a lead against a guy like the Bobby Zelensky. And I don't want to make it sound like it's impossible, but when you give a guy like that the lead and you're playing from behind, I mean, it gets that much more of a monumental task.
Oh, the old adage about catching and passing him, you know, catching him is one thing, passing him is another. Catching Bobby Zelensky tonight, especially if Parker White starts being able to, you know, really mess with Steven Wilson and get around him, and that lead's only going to grow for Bobby Z, so that will be the huge challenge tonight. We've seen Parker White make a bunch of passes, especially in that sprint race here. We know he's fast, but making these passes and finding the right opportunity is what's holding him back. We know he has a fast race car, but it's executing the pass that's holding him back at the moment. And how much time, how much of a lead can you deliver to Bobby Zelensky before it's just too late? And we're only 4 laps in, but Bobby Z, one of the best, earned this spot that he's in. To be able to run him down from multiple seconds back is going to be tough, no matter who you are, how fast your car is.
The battle on the bottom of your screen for 24th, and now big picture, that's about 20 seconds already off of the leader. I mean, this field is going to spread itself out as we are only working lap number 4 of 20 in the feature. Jumping back and taking a look at the driver of the number 5 machine. We've talked about some of the special paint schemes that are recognizing this event. And I'll tell you what, the Jim Beaver Esports team is always doing something fun. There's a look at Nate Stewart's number 5 Ford, the driver out of Hopkins, Kentucky, currently in the number 17 spot. Trying to improve on that, though. He is all over Sean Conklin. That's the next Mustang up the road.
There is one thing you can count on with Jim Beaver Esports, and that is they will provide a banger paint scheme each and every week on the sim. And look at this throwback from Nate Stewart, a World War I Dazzle camo scheme. Colin Kiesler also bearing some very special colors here in San Diego, the Qualcomm circuit. But Nate Stewart was one of the few drivers that, when asked about excited or nervous tracks throughout the season, he said, please bring on San Diego. He was very excited at the possibility of San Diego being a part of the iRacing service. And when it got announced, huge excitement. He's put on a lot of laps of practice, and banging doors with Sean Conklin at the final chicane before turn 16. Tried to muscle his way through, and instead he got bounced out of position.
Yeah, we're seeing the price you pay for being a little too aggressive into that final chicane. I love the brake load that we're seeing on these cars here in the sim. We know, look, they've done dozens and hundreds of laps of testing since this track hit the service. What we don't know is that in race conditions, right, 20 laps of hard racing, what that means for handling, brakes, the tires, all that stuff. That's what we have to learn tonight, and we'll see the effect that has, especially back here in the field for these drivers.
So working quarter distance in this race, and outside of the top 9 drivers, you're not seeing anybody who has gained or lost more than a single spot. It's all plus or minus ones for your top runners. That's not to say some drivers aren't making moves. Dylan Basin, he's up a bunch of spots. He's up 6 positions. The battle for 13th right here, Quinton Warman and Dylan Alt, a couple of guys who are going opposite directions. Dylan Alt up 4 spots, Warman down 1, so the 47 has been putting in some work.
This is really all about just trying to gain all the points. And I mean, you have the experience from the sprint race, and you just have to carry it forward through the main race here that's doubled up on length. So you do have to keep in mind just taking care of your tires, making sure that you can keep this car under you. And someone like Quinton Warman, who faced the huge damage there in turn 6, and before that on the opening lap of the race, now having to recover. And although this isn't necessarily an aerodynamic dependent track because it is a road course and you have so many slow sections, it still does bleed off a bit of natural time than if you did have a very clean car like you're seeing with the teammate right behind him, Hayek Motorsports, the duo all the way back in the positions. of 13th and 14th. Top 15s on the books for the sophomore and one of the more experienced drivers now in the sim in Dylan Hall.
Quick note, more drivers with some single car troubles. Connor Urashak clipped the corner. I think it was either turn 10 or turn 8, but we've talked about how tricky that turn 16 left-hand kink is. Drivers cutting the corner too tight and getting into the wall. Well, Connor Urashak did the same thing. He was running in the number 25 position at the time, immediately destroyed the left front of that race car, and his night is done. He has gone to the pit lane with trouble. So Urashak, Maines, and Malik Ray, 3 drivers who are out of this race already. All of them involved in some sort of an accident. Let's take a second look down at the bottom of your screen at some of the other stuff that's been going on. Here's the dive to the inside from the number 34. Squeezed in there, and the 15 goes around and takes the 34 with him. So trouble for both of those cars is going to drop Keister and Cozy well down the running order.
Tough part, turn 4, where we've seen drivers back in his second gear, and you've got to stay hugged to the inside of that wall. And that just becomes a really tough part to go side by side, and then you make a bit of that contact. And Cozy's had a rough night, that's for sure, here at Qualcomm Circuit. He's got some extra eyeballs on him, obviously a Twitch audience, but as well as all of those people watching at the Navy Lodge, where he's taking part of the festivities of NASCAR in San Diego for the first time. I mean, in a track like this, and kind of similar to the military, you got to be ready for anything, any second. I mean, have you seen Double Jeopardy? Like, you have to be ready at all times. And for everyone in the field, it got to be all 10 toes down on a very tricky tarmac surface. And at the back of the field, where everyone is desperate for those points that they need, that's where you're going to see some of those things happen.
You talk about points. Connor Urashak came into this race second in points. Malik Ray 11th. Again, going back to the bigger picture of this all, this is more than just one big event. This is a season-long deal that they're worried about their position in points, and these are early hits for some high-placing drivers at the moment.
And that Segment 1 championship, something we talked about as well. It's $3,000 first and foremost. That's nothing to scoff at, but of course, 5 points are going to be available for 2 different types of accomplishments when we get to the playoffs, and that is race wins and that is segment wins. So Bobby Zalenski, Steven Wilson, 2 drivers who are in the mix for both right now, have a chance to get themselves off on the right foot when it comes to obviously getting a segment win. Bobby Zalenski in the catbird seat in the race right now, but he came into this thing almost 20 points behind Bobby Zalenski did compared to Steven Wilson in the points. So I know Steven Wilson would love to win this race, and he's not out of contention yet. He's 2.4 seconds back. Those intervals have kind of balanced out a little bit. We'll keep an eye to see if Bobby continues to pull away, but Steven Wilson, I think you've got to be looking at big picture for him and thinking about trying to get a segment championship, something he's done many times before.
And again, that's why this Qualcomm Circuit has been such a curveball, Evan. I mean, the drivers were expecting Iowa. They felt like they were expecting something relatively normal for the sake of it, even though that does have a heat racing format. And then, boom, you throw in a brand new racetrack that real-life drivers haven't encountered yet, the sim drivers have to encounter, and they have only a full week of practice. And there have been many drivers on social media in the lead-up to this race. They admitted they could not put in a ton of hours of practice, and with the busy schedules that they have off of the sim, a lot of them have had very limited practice until this session tonight. So it's just been all about them trying to adapt in the right way. And Steven Wilson, with his natural road course pace, has been able to be on that level. It's just really, really wild when you think of these short segments, how much they're worth, especially given the playoffs later this season, how valuable that is, and how more impressive it is to see guys like Bobby Zalenski and Steven Wilson be able to perform as well as they have, even through the different challenges they have been faced with. Adding in a new circuit is just a brand new thing to deal with.
And we're approaching halfway. I'm looking at the pylon, guys. That gap between Bobby Zalenski and Parker White is shrinking a bit in terms of time as we look further back here in the field for 29th, 30th, and 31st. Christopher Hill, one of the William Byron Esports drivers, having a good year so far, but tonight a road course, street course, struggling. But we're seeing the separation of those who really shine on these tracks and those that have struggled here on the road course.
Parker White has never won a non-oval race before in this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series. So something to keep in mind. You're looking at the TC Esports duo of Matthew Morton and Jake Nichols. They're running together on the racetrack right now in 31st and 32nd, and there's going to be a spinner in front of them. The Logitech 25 off the racetrack. That's trouble with Christopher Hill. He wrecked out of the sprint earlier and is going to have more trouble here. But these TC cars, guys, one of the two new teams on the grid for 2026.
It's great because not only the origin of this team, that's Real Madrid goalkeeper and Belgian goalkeeper right now in the world stage of the World Cup, Thibaut Courtois, who's been playing for that team. He fundamentally created TC Esports, very well versed in sim racing and taking their chance at eNASCARs. Look at the contact there. Michael Guest getting a tally of Christopher Hill, trying to go 3 wide there in turn 2. Mind you, Hill was one of the top 5 drivers in segment 1 in the standings going into this race, and he's had a very tough time. But it's great for TC Esports on either side. The rookie in Matthew Morton, who made a fill-in start last year, but is full-time this time around. And then you have Jake Nichols making his first road course start here since August of 2021. He's a relatively veteran driver in this series, so it's a great pairing between those two, and very excited to see them in eNASCAR this year.
Fun to see this team as well. TC Esports, TC Racing as well. They do some real-world, kind of open-wheel feeder categories, Formula 4 in Spain, Euro Cup stuff. And as well, a lot of endurance things in the sim racing world. So excited to see that team join us for 2026. Again, TC Racing and then Rickware Racing, another one of our NASCAR teams who has had a digital presence starting this year, are those two new teams for 2026. One point we haven't mentioned, and this follows what we've seen the last few years in Chicago, now here in San Diego for these street races. It's not only this modified format of the qualifying, you pay points, we do an invert, we sprint, and then we race, but this is also a fixed setup race. And for all the time, Alan, we talk about these teams will have hours, right, of not only practicing, but they'll have dedicated drivers to testing setups and changes on their development side. You don't get that benefit. I mean, every single car is identical. This is all straight down to the driver, and this, and the fixed setup may benefit some drivers more than others, right? If it just drives how you like it, that might be a natural upper hand, but there is quite literally no difference car to car.
And when you see that, what's the separator, right? The driver, the person holding the steering wheel, and what's between their ears and between their hands. That's why it's no surprise, really, to see Bobby Zalinski, Parker White, Steven Wilson, Tucker Minter, Vicente Salas, all the highlights we've shown about these street races in the last few years. It was those drivers, Vicente, Parker, Steven, Bobby, who were getting the checkered flags or in that picture, right? They always talk about being in the picture when the checkered flag is flying. So it's no surprise that that skill is showing through, especially with a fixed setup like this. If all the cars are the same, all the testing that matters, it's the skill on these street courses that really shines. And we're seeing that once again from Bobby Z out front.
Almost halfway home in this race, working lap number 9. It's still Bobby Zalinski up front, KB, but that gap continues to trickle down. It's not chunks, it's by slivers. With Parker White starting to look in the 0.5 of a second range.
And right before they cross the start-finish line on the Ellison start-finish line here at Qualcomm Circuit, Parker White was nearly a full 0.2 faster than Zalinski at a 2:04.742. Now he is a breath slower just because of him being now more dirty air and him having to really just theorize what his plan is on Zalinski in order to make a pass. But this harkens back to 2024 Chicago, where these two were nose to tail the entire time. And that was the entire race, guys, where White was on the back bumper of Zalinski. But Zalinski just didn't give way and was able to win that race. And to this day, Parker says that is the most intense race he has ever experienced in his eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series career. Even more than the championship race in 2024, where he went 4 wide for the lead in the final lap. So that tells you just how intense this is to go toe-to-toe with one of the best road course racers in the series.
It's like we have a sprint race between these two drivers, Bobby Zalinski and Parker White now, for this victory at Naval Base Coronado. A historic victory, what it would be. We're halfway through the big event. Now there's 10 laps to go. We've seen a sprint race earlier, but it feels like a sprint race duel now between two of the best.
Just saw some smoke lingering in turn number 2. Kenny Brady had a single car spin. The driver was in the number 26 position, and he has dropped back significantly after having that spin. I think he's back in the number 32 position. All right, well, we are on a naval base after all, and I have seen everybody on my social feeds driving around this base and taking a picture with all of the different aircraft that are now canonically part of iRacing, and all of these unique Navy aircraft, from helicopters to fighter jets, and we're not even getting into the aircraft carriers, but the perfect example, an iconic naval aircraft, the Osprey. You got your Nighthawks, your Blackhawks scattered throughout the base as well. We can't pilot them on iRacing, not at least yet. You got your C-17s here at Naval Base Coronado, but you have to end with the highlight, and that's going to be your F-18. And we've talked about the Blue Angels earlier and the tribute paint scheme that we saw on board Logan Helton's machine a little bit earlier. Well, those F-18s are not only what the Blue Angels use for their aerial demonstrations, but it's also what the pilots in the United States Navy take care of on a day-to-day basis. Well, we have been enjoying all of the fantastic sights and sounds that you can only get here at the Qualcomm circuit. Let's go trackside and take it in. This is iRacing Full Throttle. Great shot through the turns 2 and 3 complex. I know turn 5's carrier corner, but turn number 2 might be my favorite one as you go down the hill and you've got the carrier and the fighter jet sitting on top. Kenneth, we were just looking around the base at some of the different aircraft that are scattered about. You mentioned the Ellison start-finish line as well on this circuit, which is its own little bit of aviation and naval aviation history, which is named after, as you mentioned, and we were talking pre-race, Theodore Gordon Ellison, who was the first United States Navy officer that was designated as an aviator, served in the experimental development of aviation in the years preceding and following World War I. So if you're watching NASCAR racing this weekend and you wonder where the name Ellison start-finish line comes from, there's a little bit more of some unique history tied in to this street course.
And his history, Theodore Ellison, is the reason why Naval Base Coronado is even a thing. I mean, naval air stations didn't start becoming a thing until naval officers could become aviators and pilots. So without Ellison's hard work and determination and him becoming a pilot, the first time the United States Navy to expand their branches, I mean, we wouldn't have Naval Base Coronado. We would not have the Qualcomm circuit as a result. So really cool piece of history. And again, part of the celebration of America's history, I got to see this Coronado area from Point Loma, which is on the far side in San Diego in real life a few months ago. It is beautiful to take in all of the sights. San Diego is a wonderful city And so to see NASCAR embrace Southern California once again for the first time in a few years and come to San Diego while also celebrating America's 250th birthday with a race like this, it's nothing short of awesome.
I have made sure to plan my weekend around not doing anything this weekend so I can watch all of the exciting action. And, of course, hope that everybody is going to have that opportunity as well as the stars of NASCAR are headed on Southern California this week. But we've still got championship points, a segment title, and a checkered flag to hand out in this third round of this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series. The gap up front only continues to shrink by the most minuscule amounts every single lap, but slowly but surely, Parker White is inching towards Zelensky. Now, they have both really started to increase the gap to everybody else behind them. Steven Wilson, Tucker Minter, Vicente Salas, they're all 4+ seconds behind, and they are all running about a full 1/10 to 2/10 of a second slower than the leaders are every single lap. So very clearly looking at a 2-car breakaway. Well, one of the better views on this circuit is this back half of the racetrack as you kind of tiptoe through what is turns 8, 9, 10, and 11. It's the Coronado chicane, but it kind of feels like the stadium section when you're talking about some other awesome racetracks in Mexico City with the grandstands on both sides of that part of the racetrack. Going to be awesome views for those who are fortunate enough to take in the action on site and be in San Diego. I know I'm looking forward to the Cup Series coverage on Prime, but what a cool event if you're on site to be a part of it.
Evan, I don't care who it is. I mean, Alan, I want to be sitting next to an FA-18. I'm just going to say that.
That's the unique part. I think about the street course in Chicago. What made that so unique is that it was downtown Chicago. This is the crowd view. If you are at Airbase,
that's the view I want. You got the carrier. That's where I want to sit.
Coming down that hill where that little jump may be, what they're saying, as you get into turn 2 and make that left turn and then see the carrier, everything just so unique, and be able to do that. This is a great view from the stands if you're fortunate enough to be there. On Friday, it'll largely be a military celebration, members and servicemen and women, and then Saturday and Sunday, the public ticket holders who get to see this and experience NASCAR in one of the most unique venues of all time. And that's what's going to be so much fun, is seeing this and exploring it for yourself.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll have any luck if you haven't got tickets already, but that's my vote for the best view right there. Turn number 2 is an awesome one. You get the planes up and on the carriers. We already talked about the Blue Angels and the Navy demonstration team and the inspired paint scheme that we've seen on a car in the field here. I would love to think there's probably going to be a real fun flyover of some sort. I don't have any intel. We're not breaking news, but there's got to be something cool you think the Navy's got up their sleeve for Sunday when it's Cup racing as well.
They might know a guy.
So really a lot of fun stuff.
They might know a few people to call the right numbers.
I mean,
call somebody up. I mean,
right?
we've seen the Thunderbirds do the Daytona 500 for a long time. I used to live out in Vegas. Of course, that's the Air Force demo team. They're based out at Nellis. The Blue Angels based not too far from me down in Florida, but a lot of real good Navy planes that I'm sure can give us a good show on Sunday afternoon. Well, if we're watching Bobby Zelensky to Parker Wright 1 and 1-2, and you think to yourself, hey, I've seen something like this before. Well, let's go back to the Chicago Street Course 2024. There is Zelensky and Parker White doing battle. Of course, in 2024, it would be Zelensky who would go on to find victory. I know I mentioned Parker White has never won on a non-oval in his Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series career. That does not mean that he has not been close. He put up a good fight in that one, and I think we're in for round 2.
You know what's crazy to think about that Chicago Street Course race was that not only was Parker White's championship season, but it was only his sophomore campaign in eNASCAR at this top level. So to be one-on-one against Bobby Zelensky, it's kind of like a welcome to the NBA moment, welcome to eNASCAR moment to have one of the best road course racers of the series be right there with you. And look at Parker White already taking a charge. Look underneath at the inside, heading down to turn 6. It's a hard place to pass, but if White can be able to make it through, he can get the inside on turn 7. He's denied in turn 7 by Zelensky. He'll have to try again.
This part of the section of the track, you only get one shot in that skinny Red Bull section there as they make another left turn and come off this corner. Parker White's going to have to dial it up and try again. Tough place to find a pass here as he's trying again.
That all started. Zelensky made a mistake. He either got the wall or was just a little bit loose trying to get back onto the throttle at a 5. And he even knew then, give Parker the left-hand side, because Bobby knew the next turn was a right-hander in 6. I mean, even when he makes a misstep, he very clearly yielded and shaded right to make sure that if Parker White was going to try to make the pass, he was going to have to do it the tricky way. And to Alan's point, I mean, turn 6, that is a tight corner. You are not getting through there 2 by 2, but maybe a chink in the armor for Zelensky. Is he feeling the pressure from Parker White with that misstep? The 95 has looked cool, calm, and collected. Obviously, it's hard to get a gauge unless you're behind the wheel with them, but I haven't seen the 95 overstepping, making mistakes, getting out of shape. Those last couple of corners, Zelensky really, though, taking advantage. He had a great set of corners, and all of a sudden, as they get their air going over the hill down to turn 2, that gap is at 7/8 tenths of a second. I know that's not a lot, but that's the biggest it's been in 10 laps, I think.
The gap opened up because Parker White hit the tire barrels there at the exit of the final chicane coming to turn 16. So now he has just a bit of right front damage. I don't think it's knocked out the steering from his Chevrolet, so it won't necessarily be a detrimental effect for Parker. However, it is a big time loss, and so Parker really has to regain confidence here now with even less time to work with. He took maybe 9 to 10 laps to even get a sniff of the back bumper of Bobby Zelensky. Now he only has about 4.5 laps to make all of that time up, a 2nd and 2/10, and then get to Zelensky to try and pass him.
There's still a lot of time, but it's this section right here where he attempted to make the pass on the lead, and if you come at the king, you best not miss, and Parker missed, and it took him, it created a big mistake on his end because you only get one shot at it, it seems. Now he has to make up all that time as he comes out of this corner. Interesting to where he made and tried to make that pass after all that time. Of all the parts of this track, it didn't work out this time. He's got to try to do it again.
1.7 seconds. Parker White is falling off a cliff in comparison to the pace that Bobby Zelensky has been putting on. And I've been trying to look at the right front of that car. There is that visible damage, Kenneth, that you mentioned. And I don't know if it's just, listen, he was trying to be aggressive, so maybe he's cooked those tires and heated them up a little bit, and it's a tire issue as he tried to make a very clear push. But, I mean, it is night and day difference. 1.9 seconds, continuing to drop back. Let's take a second look on the bottom.
Yeah, look at the second tire bundle. So he gets through the first one. He tries to arc down to the second one. Bam, there's contact. Very flat on the right front of the race car. And again, it doesn't necessarily break the race car. He's not done. He can still drive it all the way to the finish, but the steering can be knocked out by a few inches, and that does affect overall performance. Plus, that right front tire is now starting to lean a little bit in a different direction. So I think Parker's starting to really feel the effects of the steering being a little bit knocked out of full line. And that's where everyone else here, Wilson, Chente, Minter, they can all take advantage for second.
Yeah, Alan, I don't want to steal your flow or anything, but I feel a little bit guilty saying that Parker White didn't look pressured and hasn't made a misstep. And it was on that same very part of the lap where he just got the littlest bit of those tires. I mean, we've seen people make that same level of contact with one of those K-rails, like the outside wall, and be done. So to KB's point, could be worse, but it is very evident that that little mistake is going to prevent Parker White from winning this race and likely prevent him from finishing second, because Wilson, Vinter, Salas, they are all catching very quickly.
All the more impressive than with what Bobby Zelensky is doing, right? From what he started with in the sprint race, able to get the lead, and what he's been able to do so far in this race in terms of just showing, right, how important every single corner is, and just kissing that little tire barrier there and what it could do to your entire race. Bobby Zalinski has been fairly mistake-free, if not from 100% mistake-free, and it's just the more than impressive if he can just bring it home and get the checkered flag.
Bit of a mistake for the 97 behind the battle for P2, as Tucker Minter was the one who did not get off at turn 12 very good, missed the exit completely, and it allows the number 11 machine to go on through. So Salas picks up a spot, and he'll go up to P4. That is going to drop Minter down to the number 5 spot, and there it is, the 77 of Wilson through and around the 95. Wilson, your points leader coming into today, and it's not going to be what looks like a win, still 3.3 seconds back from Zelensky, but a P2 likely would be enough for Wilson to not only just continue a really good start to the season, but again, also likely secure himself that Segment 1 championship if all holds. And again, I think Parker White realistically might be looking at a P5 before this thing's said and done. I know there's only 3 laps left to go, but these cars lined up on his bumper are going to continue to try to put the pressure on him.
Yeah, you just have to damage control if you're White in this moment. And if that means letting some of those drivers by without any resistance, then so be it. Because Parker finished 17th and 38th in his last 2 starts to kick off the season. That's the worst 2-race performance to begin any season of his Coke Championship career. And so he just has to think about it. If it's going to be damage limitation, at least the top 5 is going to be in the cards for him. Maybe a P6 at the end of that.
Well, here's the crowd perspective of Seth DeMerchant getting a little aggressive. The car in front of him and set for a spin. Seth was somebody who I kind of pointed out on the grid was 17th best on speed, but was involved in an earlier incident in the sprint race that put him to the back of the pack. How was his feature race going to shake out? Despite the spin, he's still 23rd. I mean, that's a lot of positions gained. DeMerchant doing a lot in this relatively short race to make up for some of the shortcomings that happened in the sprint a little bit earlier on. Of course, as we took a look at that, Casey Kerwin, Vicente Salas, they've all been able to get up and around the Parker White machine, and as he drops all the way down to what's now P6, that may be the bottom of this fall, coming to just 2 laps to go. He's still 3 seconds ahead of Luza in 7th, who would be the next driver that could possibly challenge.
Got to do all that you can, especially with these last laps remaining, to just survive. Everyone thought this race was going to be one of attrition, and that is definitely true with how many places you can make mistakes and hit the tire bundles here at Qualcomm Circuit. We have a great battle for the top 10. Daniel Falkingham, Dylan Basin, Dylan Altz, 2 Dylans in the middle of this, Garrett Lowe at the back end of this 4-car quartet, and Basin on track to have one of his best performances to kick off his rookie season in the Coke Championship Series. And Falkingham, after runner-up at Echo Park a few weeks ago, how about a top 10 on the road course, given how wild that first sprint race was, seeing his teammate out early and Falkingham dealing with a bit of issues himself, but doing a nice job staying in the top 10 and hoping he can stick it.
Somebody got a bit of the fence there. It might have been the 3rd car in line for the 47 machine. I think Alt might have got a little bit of the wall. It really slowed him down as they came off, and you saw a great undercut. Garrett Lowe making the pass behind. So Lowe moves up into the number 12 spot. Alt will fall down to 13th, and the actual battle for 10th itself continues. You're looking at the battle for 24th on the bottom of your screen. Sebastian Marin, somebody who has fallen way back. Remember, he was a top 10 car in that sprint, started this race in 8th position, but finds himself running back here. 16 positions lost is the most spots dropped for any car that is still out there on the racetrack. So Marin obviously putting in the effort, but has had some sort of trials and tribulations that have kicked him back here. So scanning the field, we're getting all these unique looks at what it is like to be a spectator here at the Qualcomm Circuit at Naval Base Coronado. Here's another look from the grandstands as they come through. That's that, again, back half of the race course through Runway Road, turns 14, 15, and so on as you head to kind of that final straightaway, that chicane. Left-hand turn 16, and then the start-finish line where there is one lap to go for the best who's ever done it on these street circuits in eNASCAR history. Bobby Zalenski trying to wrap this one up. Still plenty of fighting going on behind him, watching the 66 car engaged in combat.
And this is just unbelievable what Bobby Zalenski's been able to do. Look at Marin under fire from Femi Olatubosin, and now even further back the road with Matthew Moore. No, Marin had to cut through the tire bundle there in the corner, so that we'll have to let some people by, and Olatubosin gets spun at the entry of turn 12. Matthew Morton, the rookie, ends up on bye. So a wild sequence of scenarios, all trying to gain position on this final lap, while Bobby Zalenski enjoying the best road course tenure of any driver in this series, Evan.
Fortunately for Femi there, he only loses the one spot that he was fighting for. He got that thing turned back around. They had enough of a gap behind them that nobody else is going to get there. Bobby Zalenski, also good news, Alan, it's clean racetrack in front of him for about 6 corners or so. So he will be unobstructed as he gets down to the back straightaway.
That was my only potential worry for Bobby Z, is that some of these shenanigans in the back of the field were going to happen right in front of him, but clean racetrack in front of him. All he needs is a clean, half lap before he takes this checkered flag. Just an impressive performance. Again, we've seen what one little piece of contact can do to your entire race, and what happened to Parker White. For Bobby Zalenski to run this well and dominate has been a sight to see, as we were seeing, Tucker Minter getting a kiss of that wall. He goes under Vicente. It's getting very aggressive back here with some really good drivers in the top 5.
Yeah, 3-way battle for third. Salas ends up in front. Kerwin through. Minter drops back. He does not want to give up. This battle is going to go all the way to the checkered flag, but up front, Bobby Zalenski going to have his 4th straight multi-race win season. Dominates in eNASCAR's debut in San Diego. Zalenski wins at the Qualcomm circuit. Second place goes to Wilson. Battle for third. Final turns. It's Salas over Minter, over Kerwin. And they're going to exchange some words and blows across the stripe. We're not done yet. More fighting still coming to the end.
I can't believe Vicente Salas smacked the tire barrels in turn 12 and still had a car not damaged enough to stay in front of those two behind him in Minter and Kerwin. What a battle. There's Jordi Lopez, Blake Reynolds, those two drivers going around and just surviving what was really an intense race from start to finish. Half of it not even beating the other drivers, trying to beat this brand new track.
It's going to be a long victory lap until he gets all the way back to the start-finish line on the longest track on the calendar. We've had 4 points races on street circuits all time in series history. That man right there, the race winner of 3 of them, just continues to be so good. And this is another milestone moment for Bobby Zalenski. You talk about some of the best names that have ever done it on Tuesday nights in this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series. This is race win number 20 for Bobby Zalenski. That will tie him with Nick Ottinger for second on the series all-time wins list.
And a record-setting 11th road course victory in his Coke Championship Series career. Just fantastic stuff from Bobby Zalenski. Great win, dominating here in San Diego.
This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR, as Bobby Zalenski has got some celebrating to do. And guys, I don't know what it is about when you look at Bobby Zalenski's stats. For whatever reason, 20 race wins, second most all time, a lot of those are back-weighted. He has typically been a guy who just really turns it on late in the year, mid to late season. 2 race wins in the first 3 races of a season is the best start in terms of checkered flags to a year that Bobby Zalenski has ever had in his eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series career. He's made one more trip around this Qualcomm circuit at Naval Base Coronado, and the celebration is on the front straightaway for the winningest road course racer in eNASCAR history.
Great moment, tight burnout, just so meaningful given who the team owner is. Jesse Alugi, Commander Select, racing this weekend. Fun stuff.
Let's take a look at tonight's Coca-Cola move of the race. And how about this battle? Last lap, three-way fight. Salas, Minter, and Kerwin. That was an all-out brawl in the second half of lap 20.
They were beating and banging all over this Qualcomm circuit. And remember, turn 12, look at this. They're going to be 3 wide entering the corner at one point. So Salas gets the inside. Minter's there. Minter runs wide. Kerwin breaks free. They make it 3 abreast in the corner. And Salas goes directly nose first in the barrels, but Minter's so slow off the corner, Salas somehow gets on by. I mean, that's just physicality at its finest. Beat up race cars, but just racing for position number 3.
Alan, it looked like bowling with gutters the way they were just bouncing off of the walls to go one direction.
Oh, so frustrating, too, for those that lost positions. Tucker Minter had a great race, put a lot of practice in, and then at the end here, gets sniped just by Vicente Salas. Tracy Kerwin. Fun moves, though. Fun racing right here at the end. Good battle for the inaugural race here at Naval Base Coronado.
Highlights and exciting moments all the way to the checkered flag and beyond. We take a look at tonight's full race results. Final margin of victory for Bobby Zelensky is 2 seconds over Steven Wilson. Bobby leads all 20 laps and has a perfect night. We'll talk with him and others in a minute. It's Wilson in second, likely enough to be your Segment 1 champion. That's going to be a big story in 4 months from now when we're talking about the playoffs. Vicente Salas, he won the last street course race in Chicago a year ago. It's a great showing for the Tony Kadani Sports number 11. He's in third. Tucker Minter, Casey Kerwin, the other 2 drivers in that 3-way battle, come home in 4th and 5th spot. Ryan Luza is in P6. Dylan Duval 7th. Zach Novak 8th. And Parker White, I thought P6 was kind of the bottom of the fall. It got a lot worse. Self-inflicted damage in the final 5 laps. Instead of fighting for the win, the Williams F1 Team Gaming 95 car settles for P9 in this race, just ahead of a P10 for the Rick Ware entry. That's Daniel Falkingham.
Back in 11th is the RFK Racing Ford of Dylan Basin in a battle with Falkingham through the last portion of the main race. Garrett Lowe back in 12th for VS Plus competition. Dylan Alt ends up with 13th at the end of the main race with Nate Stewart top 14 for Jim Beaver Esports. And Quentin Warman, I mean, give him credit. He had severe damage on lap 1 of this race on turn 7 and was able to get back into the top 15. Jordy Lopez is 16th. Blake Reynolds for Channel 199 Sim Racing 17th. And you look at the rest of the top 20 going back to Cody Bias.
Yeah, I mentioned Seth the Merchant a couple of times tonight. He picks up a ton of spots, plus 15 to get to 22nd. Matthew Morton also picked up 15 spots. It's great for him. Seb Marin, though, struggled. Started inside of the top 10, sorry. He ends up in the number 25 position. We talked about Famiola with a late spin in that one. He's ahead of Seth Knoll, Jake Nichols, Christopher Hill, and Michael Cozy Jr., P30.
Then Kenny Brady, 31st. Ryan Doucette, 32nd. Michael Guest, Blaze Crawford, Logan Helton to bring in the top 35. Logan Helton, the first driver, 2 laps down or more. Thomas Lloyd, Colin Keister, Connor Euroshak, Malik Ray with severe trouble in the opening lap, and Garrett Maines as well. Just lots of trouble for those at the back of the field. They could not survive Qualcomm Circuit and its harsh realities, and so they will end up with those finishes. We'll have to pick up at Dover in a few weeks.
It's a look at your Coca-Cola full race results. Let's head down to Qualcomm Circuit Victory Lane, where Alan Cavana is with the second winningest driver in eNASCAR history.
Bobby Zelensky, Bobby Z. How does that sound, first of all? Evan just said it. The second winningest driver in eNASCAR history, my friend. Congratulations.
This win's special for a lot of reasons. I'll tell you what, I just got to give a shout out first to Parker. Like, he's the best man today. Pushed me over the limit. Got me nervous as hell and forced me into a mistake. I was able to just stay in front of him. I nudged him a little bit in the braking zone. Not happy about that because he always races me clean. But it was just me trying to squeeze him to try to get the apex, and then he got the damage. He clobbered that tire barrier. I could hear boom right behind me. And so that's obviously helped me a ton, but it kind of ruined the battle. 20 wins. That's awesome. Still got more to accomplish though in this series, and was just awesome to win in the NextCom car, the Navy Exchange. Had a lot of pressure on me to win this race. That was mostly self-inflicted. I mean, when you race for Jesse Iwuji and, you better come out here and put on your best. It's just, I don't know if I've been this tired after a road race, just because mentally I was just having to be locked in. Parker, I mean, he was so fast.
Yeah, tell us about that. This track, how skinny it can be, being pursued. A lot of people in the racing world, in real life and in sim, are watching this tonight, wanting to know what it was like. You are mentally drained. What is the Naval Base Coronado track like when you are racing and battling?
Can't imagine how hard it'll be in real life. Yeah, I mean, it's just so technical. There's so many places to give yourself damage, which unfortunately you saw with Parker. It's just, you have to be perfect around here, which means SVG is going to win by like 40 seconds or something. I don't know. But, God bless all the other drivers. I'll say that. But, it's so challenging.
Good analysis.
It's so challenging.
This season is bigger than just this one event. Evan pointed it out. 2 wins early on in the season when your wins typically come later on. Bobby, this is a championship season already. It feels like. How do you feel about your performance so far?
Hey, man, when it comes down to a full season, it's not a full season championship, right? We don't have a chase. We have the playoff format. We, got to get into the playoffs with as many bonus points as possible. And then we got to get to the Final Four, and then it's a whole new championship. And I've done that many times and not succeeded. So, but you can still, I'm still getting better. I hear Danny talk about it at 45. Like, he's still getting better. I'm not 45, but I'm still getting better every year and trying to push myself to just learn little things here and there. I think you saw that a lot at Charlotte, which I hadn't won like a cookie cutter mile and a half before. And I straight up won that. The road races, I've won one of these a couple of years. So, we have Dover in a week, and the monster has chewed me up every time there. And I love that track. I really want to win next week just because it's Dover. Who cares about any other circumstances? So I hope we can make it back to back just because I love Dover and I just really want to get a win on my resume there.
Well, the best one is always the next one, but enjoy the checkered flag tonight. Bobby Zielinski, your winner tonight in San Diego.
Let's move on to the driver who finishes second tonight at Qualcomm Circuit and is the Segment 1 winner of the 2026 season. We're joined now by Steven Wilson. Steven, I mean, nothing short of impressive. Average finish of second place through the first 3 races, including a win a few weeks ago. Just overall, what are the thoughts and emotions after the Segment 1 win, $3,000 more and some playoff bonus points?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's paying for a few months of rent. That's what I'm thinking of. That was my goal going into tonight. I knew Parker from testing was better than me, so I figured I probably didn't have a shot at the win, and my whole goal was just to win the segment. So goal completed. Happy with that. Really happy with my pace in the long run. I drove like an idiot pretty much. I was really bad for the whole sprint race and for about 10 laps there in the feature, and I would have been closer to Bobby. I had a couple moments there in that main race. I missed the pink section of the track, missed the corner, had a slowdown penalty in the game, and then I had just almost a moment in turn 2 where I backed into the fence. So only finishing 2 seconds back with both of those moments is okay for me, and just glad I could bring it home with the segment win.
So you're a sim driver with Spire Motorsports. They're getting ready to do battle right here at Qualcomm Circuit in real life this upcoming weekend. From what you've experienced since this track dropped on iRacing and coming into this race, what are your thoughts on what this track is like to drive and what it did feel like in a race pace today?
Yeah, it's really sketchy out there. There's not a lot of passing zones, a lot of tight sections on the racetrack, like the sprint race where I sent Bobby into turn 5 or so or 6. I didn't even mean to do that. I just realized I was either going to have to move right and pass him or go right through him and hit him into the wall. So I chose to try to pass, and that's like the tightest portion of the track. So it's not really a good passing zone. And once you get out of the groove, there's no grip. So it's really tight. There's a lot of places to make mistakes. Obviously I just said I missed a corner and had a slowdown penalty. And in real life, you don't really get that. You don't get that little slowdown penalty. Use a lot more. If you lose the race car and go into the wall, then it's over. So it's just a place that it's not going to be easy. It's going to be all over the place. It's going to be really hard to be consistent, especially with as little practices they'll have once they get into the cars this weekend.
Gonna have to give a sticker at this point that says I survived. But Steven, you survived. Second place finish here at Qualcomm Circuit. Congratulations on winning segment 1. We'll see you next week at Dover.
Thank you. Go Hawks.
And tonight's winner, Bobby Zielinski, told us the best car and driver tonight was the 95 of Parker White. Parker White joining us now. Parker, not the finish you wanted. We saw you pursue and run down Bobby Z and even make an attempt at a pass. What happened after that?
Yeah, we got side by side there. I was planning on a move, and I think it was in the last sector or something. It's where I passed Ryan Luza in the heat race, but yeah, I saw him make a mistake. I was able to get side by side, but then in the braking zone we had like a netcode hit or something, and that just completely locked up my right front. So got back behind, and then towards the end of the lap, I hit the tire wall. It was literally just a matter of an inch that just completely ruined my race because, like I'm looking at it right now, the nose of my car made it past the barrier just fine. But since we're in a right-hand turn, the right front tire was sticking out just a little bit, and that's what got the tire wall, and it just knocked the camber in, and I was like 2 seconds off a lap. So, I mean, I guess it's just my luck that throughout all the testing, I was able to hit that, not lose too much time, but yeah, I hit it in the race, and it just completely ruins my race. But able to take a lot of positives away from this race. Pace was really good. Yesterday, I wasn't really sure my pace was going to stack up because I didn't really do as many laps as I wanted to. But luckily, I was able to pick it up really quick, and race pace was really good. Made a few mistakes in the race. Like Steven let me go for the first time, and then I just completely missed the next corner. Then he did it again, and I thought I braked plenty early, and I almost missed it again. But yeah, like I said, pace was really good. So we got a lot of positives to take away, but not really the result I wanted.
The racing world is watching. How do you describe how tough tonight was? You mentioned little mistake cost you everything.
Yeah, it takes a lot of mental focus just to like lock in and be able to drive around here. That's just the hardest part. But like driving wise, like once you learn the track and know all the corners, like it's really just all about like hitting your braking zones, just not stepping on the throttle too much. But yeah, like I said, it was literally just a matter of literally an inch that I hit the tire wall. Like I didn't even hit it with the car itself. I hit it with the tire, and that's what just completely knocked the tire out. So yeah, it's literally just a matter of inches that can be the difference between having a really good corner and just ending your race. So.
Well, it was a fun battle to watch while it lasted, and in the finish you watched. But great effort tonight, and we learned a lot by watching you. So congratulations, Parker White. Top 10 tonight after a rough go, Kenneth.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And now joined by the fourth place finisher of Tucker Minter. Tucker, I just want to talk about that battle between yourself, Casey Kerwin, and Vicente Salas on the last lap in the back sector. We saw it. It looked like chaos. From your perspective, what did it look like behind the wheel?
I mean, it's just typical Vicente driving over his head. You know, he overdrove whatever corner and blew the right front off his car, and then everybody behind him has to pay for it, and tried to run me into the tire wall in that chicane after brake checking me a few corners before that. And I decided I wasn't going to just, sit there and ride behind him and get passed by Casey after he tried to run me in the wall. So just tried to make that same pass that a lot of guys made and just got on the dirty part of the racetrack, overdrove it a little bit. I honestly thought he'd be a little bit slower through there with his right front falling off. But, I messed up the corner. I'm sorry Casey got swept up right there. I thought he was going to cross us both over, but, you just play stupid games, you get stupid prizes.
Second top 5 of the season, obviously the great finish at Charlotte, and then picking up here at Qualcomm Circuit. How difficult is this track? I did see your onboard lap with Logitech G and William Byron Esports earlier this week, and you described the differences, the details of what makes this track so interesting and intense. How did you make of that when you have 39 other cars around you and you've got to race them all for position?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's really chaos everywhere. So, at the start, when you go through a massive jump, basically that's pretty sketchy. And then, everywhere is a small mistake away. I mean, you don't see guys like Vicente or Steven or Parker, make a lot of mistakes. And, people were making mistakes tonight. So, it's definitely a technical track, super fun. I'm glad you guys got to see the Logitech G William Byron Esports track preview. Put a lot of effort into it this week with that Cars clip I was pretty proud of. So, we enjoy doing those every week.
Well, Tucker, I stole your flow a little bit, but I hope you're happy that I did use that car's reference when mentioning the jump going into turn 2. But in all seriousness, Tucker, great finish tonight. Top 5 at Qualcomm Circuit. We're ready to see you at Dover next week with the rest of the field, but congratulations on the top 5.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was a good night. Qualified on pole and got some good points.
All right, the other side of that beef, Kenneth, we brought in Vicente Salas. Vicente, we'll get your side of it because it was pretty controversy-free until the final lap. Tucker Minter not happy with you, says you cooked it and play stupid games, and he accused you of a lot of things. Let's get your side of it.
Well, people don't like to lose, first off, and point blank, he's the one that lost in that situation, right? I was pretty dialed in on catching Steve there. I was trying to just ride, and I knew once the car was broken on the qualifying lap, we missed the invert, that it was just going to be a night of salvaging, try to get our points for the season we have ahead. So played it really, really smart all the way up through the field, played it really, really smart in that race. Coming to the white flag, like I said, I was focused on Steve, got a little too close to that tire barrier, and it caught me out. So I knew that last lap was just going to kind of be about survival and placing my car in the right area. I don't think that I touched Tucker. I didn't intentionally put him in the wall, didn't do anything. And into the turn 12 hairpin, he just point blank kind of speared us into the wall, almost wrecked me and Casey, ended up losing him the spot that he was probably going to gain on me in the next section. So honestly, I don't think there's any beef between me and Tucker, at least from my side. I think I just played that situation smart with a completely broken car, and it's his problem that he didn't beat me. So just got to thank everybody at Kanan Esports, Miramar Financial, CFM Esports, Tony Kanan, everybody that makes this program go around. Shout out to everybody watching back home at the ranch. Thank you guys, and just everybody that watches support me. Tonight should have been much better from us, but I'm going to look back at it, learn from it, and be better next time.
I'll give you credit. You hit the wall so hard and still somehow won that battle. So that was impressive on top of everything else you did tonight, Vicente.
Yep. Thank you.
Good stuff. A little controversy, good racing, and a historic night, guys. So, I mean, what else could you ask for out in San Diego?
Well, you heard the perspectives, so let's watch it back one more time. And I think the old Dale Sr. quote was, if they're not cheering, they might as well be booing. I thought that was, at least the fans are making noise. But does it apply to drivers also? Because I guess you don't have beef if you're irrelevant, right? So it's two drivers that are some of the very best in this sport, and here's how it all went down.
But this is the iRacing VAR check. I'm making a box with my hands right now just to get a review. I mean, this is tough battling. You're going into a tight section. This is where the tire bundles are. So Minter tries to make an outside pass. He runs wide. I mean, Kerwin goes in, and then he just tries to dig deep into the corner. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know if that was much of an attempt to make the corner.
I don't see what Vicente did anything wrong other than Tucker Minter missing that first corner and then trying to make up for it. I'm sorry, Tucker. Good guy, but I don't see what happened there.
So is that offsides or is that onside? So what's the call, KB? You're the VAR official.
Well, this just looks like a poorly timed slide tackle. I mean, he was trying to go from behind and got to the inside and then just nudged Salas out of the way. I just still can't believe, guys, how Salas hit that tire barrier so hard and still managed to finish third. I mean, I just can't fathom that. These next-gen cars, suspensions, they break really easily. So that hit is nothing short of hard.
That was
and then
a very
Casey
clear
Kerwin
statement.
After.
Yeah, very clear statement. We missed it live. We went back to some of the other stuff, but I mentioned there were some words. There was that plus words on the radio at the end of this race. Well, here's a look at what are your current series points, but your final Segment 1 championship standings, where Stephen Wilson will claim the Segment 1 win. So he gets the $3,000. He gets the 5 bonus points that accompany a win for a segment, which means that both Steven, 5 points for the race win in Atlanta and 5 points for the segment victory, and Bobby, 5 points for the Charlotte win and 5 points for the San Diego win. They both got 10 points headed into the playoffs. Two of the big storylines so far this year are tied in what would be the playoff standings. And Bobby's already looking forward to next week. If you count tonight, this is 4 races in the string of 5 weeks as we head, Alan, to the Monster Mile Dover Motor Speedway in 1 week's time.
Another good race that's going to be plenty action-filled and can cure some of these beefs, but maybe the time will settle that down. Hey, fun night tonight, guys. Again, the whole industry was watching. We got the sense from some of the best racers in the world on the sim and what it was like, the mentality of it all. I hope that carries over to the real-life stuff we see starting Friday.
Yeah, Kenneth, I don't know if it's shorter season, shorter tempers, or kind of where that all equates to, but this may not have been a short track, but these street courses always race like it. I loved what we saw tonight. It should set up for a great race this weekend with the stars of the NASCAR Cup Series and more, and gets me even more excited for that next time out when we're back next Tuesday.
Perfect ingredients to make a wild race. Bobby Zelensky chefing it up, cooking up a W here in San Diego. Great race.
It's going to be it for us here tonight from Southern California. On behalf of our entire team at iRacing, NASCAR, and for everybody on tonight's broadcast crew, for the folks in the iRacing office, for our remote crew, for our Countdown to Green team with James Pike, Alan Cavana, and Ryan Vargas, Jesse Iwuji stopped by, as well for Kenneth Bueno, myself, Evan Pasoko. I want to say thank you for tuning in. And if you liked what you saw, we've got more. 7 days time, Tuesday, June 23rd, from iRacing's virtual Dover Motor Speedway. That race and every race of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series can be found right here on the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from Qualcomm Circuit at Naval Base Coronado, and congratulations to another race winner on the street circuits. It's Bobby Zelensky who does it again.